up across the internet. If you're not a regular of the program, you may not know this, but we do multi-stream, which means you can find us kind of wherever. You can find us on Periscope and on Facebook and on Twitch even, but the home base is YouTube, and YouTube always takes a minute to get started, but it looks like we're online, so let's get rolling. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gruler. I am a criminal defense attorney here at the R&R Law Group in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona, where my team and I, over the course of many years, have represented thousands of good people facing criminal charges. And throughout our time in practice, we have seen a lot of problems with our justice system. I'm talking about misconduct involving the police. We have prosecutors behaving poorly. We have judges not particularly interested in a little thing called justice, and it all starts with the politicians, the people at the top, the ones who write the rules and pass the laws that they expect you and I to follow, but sometimes have a little bit of difficulty doing so themselves. And that's why we started this program called Watching the Watchers, so that together we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency back down upon our very system with the hope of encouraging some meaningful change. And we have a lot to get into today. Today, the news started out to be a little bit slow, but just learned about this new individual who's been charged with a crime out of a federal district court, and that's taking place out of the Eastern District of New York. Some allegations of sort of electoral voting rights interference. Of course, I'm talking about Douglass Mackey, aka Ricky Vaughn, who in the 2016 election was a big influencer, somebody who was catching a lot of eyeballs back in those days. Well, he was just arrested for spreading memes. That's why on our thumbnail on this video, it's called Criminal Memes. Kind of ridiculous. So we're going to break that down. Going to spend a lot of time on that. Going to see a big wall of text. We're going to go through the entire complaint. It's 24 pages. I did skip a little bit here and there, and we'll move through it quickly, but this is important. This is a big deal. This is the first criminalization that we have seen as a result of sharing information on the internet. Specifically, they're upset that this individual was sharing memes that was encouraging people to go vote by text, right? So we're going to break that down and show you what that is all about. We also have Ghislaine Maxwell. Her attorneys filed a new motion asking the court to dismiss her case. Remember, Ghislaine is closely connected, was the second in command to Jeffrey Epstein, who may or may not be dead. We're still trying to figure that one out. But he is not around anymore to be prosecuted. So she is the last one available, the last person who knows anything about that entire disgusting operation that was going on. So we have to we analyze that. She filed a new motion to dismiss, basically saying that she doesn't want white people on the jury. So a little upset about that. We're going to tell you what that is, what's going on with that. George Floyd, we spent a lot of time talking about George Floyd and all of the bad popo who were associated with that case. Well, they made an attempt very recently to bring in some of George Floyd's prior records. They wanted to, sort of parade around his criminal record to say, well, see what a bad guy he was, therefore we're not liable for putting our knee on his neck for, 9 minutes and killing the guy. But, they're trying to do that. The judge said, nope, not going to allow that to happen, kind of. So we'll break down what is going on with that. And other news, we've got some Biden news. He signed a new executive order that is intending to phase out private prisons. We've also got another police issue in Philadelphia. They were investigating a case for 10 years. They had ruled it a suicide, but then they revised it, and now they're claiming that it's a murder, which is interesting. 10 years later, I wonder what that's about. We're going to dig into that. And then the Canadians also, I saw a little post on Twitter that the Canadians are also going to be incriminating hate speech. They're going to be really trying to prosecute those offenses because it's problematic for them apparently up there. So kind of a lot to get into today, a smattering of different topics. Before we dive into the content, I want to, of course, invite you to subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. We go live at this time every day of the week. We would love to have you back. A like, a thumbs up, a comment, a share, invite somebody to come join the conversation. That would be very much appreciated. As is usual, we're going to go through some slides. We're going to look at the primary source documents, the actual criminal complaint, the motions that have been filed in court, so that we can learn a little bit about what's going on underneath the surface instead of just gobbling up the headlines. We want to see what's really going on here. Is there some truth to this stuff or not? And so we're going to do that. And all of the slides are going to be available for you over on our new platform at locals.com. It's watchingthewatchers.locals.com, or you can just go to the main homepage, locals.com, type in Watching the Watchers, and we should pop right up. So the slides will be over there. A copy of my book is over there. It's totally free PDF. You can get a copy of the existence systems. You can get a copy of the impeachment templates. There's a lot. But the most important aspect of Locals is the people. There's a lot of awesome people over there who are very interested in some of the same topics we talk about here. So head on over there, check that out. As I'm going through the material, if you have any questions or super chats, you can send those along. Just send them in. Miss Faith is right back there in that office right behind me, and she's going to be clipping those, adding those to my slide deck, and we'll get to those at the end of the program. All right, so let's get into it. This is the big news, and this is kind of a jokey case to some degree because it's involving memes and it's involving the 2016 election, and it's kind of an absurd thing that somebody would be charged for their posts on Twitter that are sort of bad-mouthing Hillary Clinton or encouraging people to do certain things. They're getting prosecuted for that, and the Department of Justice Office of Public Affairs released today this press release. It says, for immediate release on Wednesday, January 27th, a social media influencer was charged with election interference stemming from voter disinformation campaign. A defendant unlawfully used social media to deprive individuals of their right to vote. So you just think about that, right? Somebody is just posting stuff on social media, just posting stuff. They're not doing anything with the ballots. They're not doing anything to prevent somebody to going in and finding information. Anybody who saw one of these memes has the total ability to go in and, that doesn't sound right. Maybe I should go to my Secretary of State or my elections board website or whatever that is. I can pick up a phone, I can call, I can go down and vote in person. But they're saying that just by posting this stuff, and the fact that some people responded to it in the form of likes and tweets and text messages, that's enough. That's enough to say you interfered with another individual's right to vote. Literally, it says use social media to deprive individuals of their right to vote just by posting. That's it. And now we're going to get into this. I mean, you have to ask yourself, it kind of begs the question, well, who else has done this? Is anybody else responsible for depriving individuals of their right to vote? Or let's say interfering with the election based on voter disinformation? I mean, that's like 90% of the media that is causing disinformation. I mean, my point here is that now you have an arbiter. You have somebody who is going to be reviewing these types of cases, tweets, messages, social media posts, and determining, well, this is disinformation, this is not. And it's not just about canceling somebody off of the platform anymore. Now we're talking about charging them with a crime, arresting them, issuing a federal arrest warrant, and going and swooping these people up just for posting stuff on social media. So if I'm not making myself clear, this is like a level 10 alert. I mean, this is a massive, I would say, encroachment on your freedom to associate, your freedom of speech, your ability to go out there and articulate one particular point of view. And what we're going to see here is, you can make some arguments that some of what happened here in terms of these posts are not ideal. They're not in good taste. They're sort of, it's kind of, I was around for the 2016 meme war, and it was a wild time. I mean, I was just watching it, observing from afar, going, these are the best memes I've ever seen. And there was a lot of activity. The MAGA meme culture was just out of control, and they were hilarious and a lot of fun, and people were just having a good time on the internet. And now we fast forward 4 or 5 years later, and people are being charged with crimes for it. So I just wanted to, just set the tone on this thing that we are going to look at some memes here at the end of this segment, but it is not a joke. This is concerning as hell to me, more than most things that we talk about on this show. This is people are being charged with serious crimes in federal court for posting stuff on the internet that is political in nature, that's closely related to the election. And so you can ultimately be the judge of that. I sort of laid out my conclusion before we even reviewed any documents. But, this is something that I do not like the idea of at all, that the federal government is going to be investigating people who are posting content and then literally charging them with crimes for expressing preference for one particular candidate. Now, what we're going to see here is that these individuals, the allegations are that they were encouraging people to vote by text message. And so we're going to get there, and you can say, well, that's kind of, dishonest, or it is disinformation. What about the gullible people who vote and by text message, they send a text, they think that they can vote because this guy posted a meme somewhere. Well, I'll save it. Let's get into it because we've got a lot to unpack here. So the social media influencers charged with election interference stemming from voter disinformation campaign. Florida man was arrested this morning on charges of conspiring with others. So just think about this. Conspiring with others in advance of the 2016 presidential election to use various social media platforms to disseminate misinformation, which again, I mean, this is... Just think about the standard here to disseminate misinformation. That happens every single day. Other people conspire with others. We've seen this from the Washington Post, the New York Times. They come out with flat out lies and then they disseminate that misinformation. They leave it up for a certain period of time. And they're saying here that this individual, their conduct amounted to a deprivation of individuals of their constitutional right to vote. But I don't really know how they did that. I mean, they were just absorbing the information, just like people absorb information from the Washington Post or from MSNBC or from Fox News. It doesn't matter what agency. It's just something that you're absorbing the information. But now that is analogous, equivalent to literally depriving individuals of their constitutional right to vote because they got some information in their mind, because they're too dumb to think about how to vote, what to do with that information. They're just so stupid that we're all just automatons. We have no free will. We have no independent ability to think or reason or use logic in our minds. If somebody posts something on the internet and you see it, and that is a disinformation, that's a piece of bad information, well, then suddenly you're helpless. You gobbled that information up, and now you're just so dumb that we have to charge that other individual with the crime. It's like, if you get punched in the face, you got hit in the face. At least you can say there was a physical contact. Yeah, you are being deprived of your face at that point in time. But just because you absorbed information, how is that a deprivation of your individual right? It's one of the most absurd things I've ever seen. So misinformation designed to deprive individuals of their constitutional right to vote. We're talking, of course, about Douglass Mackey, or AKA Ricky Vaughn, age 31, West Palm Beach, was charged with a criminal complaint in the Eastern District of New York, taken into custody this morning in West Palm Beach, and he made his initial appearance before the magistrate judge, Bruce Reinhardt, in the Southern District of Florida. And it says here, according to these allegations in the complaint, the defendant exploited a social media platform, and just look at this language, conspiring with others, okay? It was a bunch of kids or young guys back at that day, so it was 4 years ago, so a 27-year-old guy, along with some other, young men who were conspiring with others. Conspiring, right? Conspiring. Oh my goodness. So they were together. They exploited a social media platform. You know what they were doing? Posting on social media to infringe one of the most basic and sacred rights guaranteed by the Constitution, the right to vote, said the acting assistant attorney general. This person, Nicholas L. McQuaid, is representing the government from the Justice Department's criminal division. This complaint underscores the department's commitment to investigating and prosecuting those who would undermine citizens' voting rights. Literally, by posting stuff on the internet, you are undermining citizens' voting rights. So you can just extrapolate that. Where does this go? If you have an opinion, if you say that one candidate did something bad, maybe you were mistaken about that, but are you undermining their voting rights? Because they may do something differently as a result of the information that you shared. This guy goes on, says there's no place in public discourse for the lies and misinformation. Well, then what the hell is the media doing? Okay, they lie and they provide misinformation literally all the time. They changed information. We covered a story here on the Washington Post where they were whitewashing information. So, information, it's misinformation, literally. And apparently this one is somehow defrauding citizens of their right to vote. Okay, Seth. Seth Ducharme, acting U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of New York. With Mackey's arrest, we serve notice that those who would subvert the democratic process, so whatever that means, in this manner cannot rely on the cloak of internet anonymity. So anybody out there on the internet who's anonymous, if the Justice Department does not like you, you are now on their radar. You cannot use that anymore to, quote, evade responsibility for their crimes. They're going to be investigated, caught, and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Protecting every American citizen's right to cast a legitimate vote is a key to success of our republic. How the hell does a Twitter post have anything to do with casting a vote? I have no idea. What Mackey alleged did to interfere with this process by soliciting voters to cast their ballots via text amounted to nothing short of vote theft. Oh my goodness. It's just insane. It is illegal behavior and contributes to the erosion of the public trust in or electoral processes. So could this be, is there anything else that could have potentially contributed to problems with our electoral processes that would constitute people to have their trust eroded in our electoral systems? Well, yeah, we talked about it for like 2 months. We talked about the courts changing the rules, the legislature allowing Board of Elections to just change the rules outside of the scope of the legislative branch. We've talked about all sorts of changes that have seriously undermined the public's trust in our elections. We still see it. I think there was a new poll from Rasmussen, like 73% of Republicans still have issues with the election. Was it because this guy posted? Or was it because the election, the entire vertical of how we operate our elections here is now in question? Oh my goodness. All right, let's go back to this. The complaint alleges in 2016, Mackey established an audience on Twitter with approximately 58,000 followers. A February 2016 analysis by MIT Lab ranked Mackey as the 107th most important influencer ahead of NBC News, Stephen Colbert, Newt Gingrich. As alleged in the complaint, between these two different dates, they disseminated fraudulent messages designed to encourage supporters of one candidate to vote via text message or social media, a legally invalid method of voting. So thank you, Justice Department, for educating us that you can't vote by text. Thank you. Great job. For example, on November 1, Mackey allegedly tweeted an image featuring an African-American woman standing in front of an African-Americans for the candidate sign. So that would have been for Hillary, of course. They don't want to put that in here. The image included the following text: avoid the line, vote from home, text the candidate's first name. So it would have been Hillary here. They just don't want to say that. Text Hillary to 59925, vote for the candidate and be a part of history. And so these memes were flying all over the place. The fine print at the bottom of the image stated, must be 18 years or older to vote, 1 vote per person, must be a legal citizen of the U.S., voting by text is not available in Guam. So paid for by Hillary for president 2016. So clearly a fraudulent meme, right? It's a joke. It's a meme. All right, they're going to go through and they're going to say, well, they were intending to, to sort of fraudulently induce people to go vote by text, which, by the way, if you saw that image and you voted and you went like, oh, I can just vote by text because some random guy named Ricky Vaughn on Twitter posted this stupid picture and it's okay, well, I'm going to take that as a credible source. I'm going to grab my phone and I'm just going to fire off my vote for Hillary. All right, now 52295. Okay, great. Send that vote in. Folks, we don't want those people voting anyways, all right? If you believe that, if you are so gullible that you can just believe an image on Twitter that is clearly a joke, okay, look, we don't necessarily want you going to the voting booth. That's just a tangent on that. Charges in the complaint are allegations. The defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Okay, great. So we've got U.S. attorneys Eric Paulson, Nathan Riley of the Eastern District, trial attorney James Mann of the Criminal Division's Public Integrity Section are prosecuting this case. So we've got 3 separate lawyers, 3 separate U.S. attorney prosecutors are going after this guy for spreading some literal memes around the internet. One of the most absurd things I've ever seen. So let's take a look at the actual document to be filed under seal. Here we have the document that was filed in the Eastern District of New York. You can see U.S. of America versus Douglass Mackey, also known as Ricky Vaughn. And this complaint in affidavit is sworn by this, I think it's a woman, Megan Reese. Megan Reese, being duly sworn, deposes she is a special agent with the FBI, duly appointed according to the law. On or about or in or about between September 2016 and November 2016, both dates being approximate and inclusive in the Eastern District of New York and elsewhere, defendant known as Ricky Vaughn, along with others, and here's what they're saying, they conspired to injure, oppress, threaten, and intimidate persons in the free exercise and enjoyment of a right and privilege secured to them by the Constitution and the laws of the United States. So as we go through this, did they do this? Did they conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, intimidate persons in the free exercise or enjoyment of a right to privilege? Just by posting stuff on Twitter, they're saying this violates U.S. Code Section 241. So let's take a look at the code. Here it is. If 2 or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, intimidate any person in any state or commonwealth, possession or district in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or the laws of the United States because of having so exercised the same, or if they go in disguise on a highway, this one doesn't apply, they shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for not more than 10 years. 10 years or both. And if death results, which I don't think that it did, then they should be fined and they may be incarcerated for life. So you can see here, this is one of the most broad statutes that you could ever ever create. Essentially, you need a conspiracy. You need a couple people doing something that injures, oppresses, threatens, or intimidates any person. All right, so intimidation, threat, it's so broad, it can basically be anything. And if any one of those things impacts the free exercise or enjoyment of any right, any right or privilege secured by the Constitution or the laws of the United States, then boom, 10 years prison. One of the most broad statutes that you can ever see, has no real clear cut and dry language in there. It just includes anything: injury, oppression, threatening, intimidating, any free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege. That's enough to be charged with a federal crime, arrested on an arrest warrant, and thrown into custody. And this is such a low bar, such a low standard. It includes a post. A post can threaten or intimidate or oppress people. What? Okay, so let's take a look at the document. Here it is. I'm a special agent with the FBI. This is where they go on and sort of puff up their background. Here's what I've done. Responsible for assisting. They conducted in both undercover and overt capacity during this time. Wire fraud, mail fraud, arrest warrants, blah, 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 blah. Outstanding. I'm familiar with the facts and circumstances set forth below. And this is something we talk about a lot here, but I thought it was interesting that this FBI agent posted here. She said in a footnote, because the purpose of this affidavit and complaint is to set forth only those facts necessary to establish probable cause, I have not described everything here. And so sometimes people will say, well, they'll see these documents and they'll come up with a bunch of rebuttals. They'll say, no, but. And the point here is that this is not everything. This is not the whole case. Presumably, this is it's 24 pages, but presumably there's a lot more evidence that they're going to be giving over to the U.S. attorneys, and then they can decide what to do with it. So we're not seeing everything. So keep that in mind. The analysis, the criticism here is based on what we see. I don't see what's in their case file. This is just the publicly available released affidavit and criminal complaint. So let's dive in. What happened here? In 2016, Mackey, working with other individuals described in greater detail below, made a coordinated use of social media. So coordinated use, like they're running a drug ring or something like that, to spread disinformation relevant to the impending 2016 election. This disinformation spread by these individuals took the form of memes. Memes, number 2. Do you know what a meme is? Well, it refers to an amusing or an interesting item, such as a caption, picture, or video, or genre of items that is spread widely online, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary. And this was another footnote that this FBI agent put in. So if you don't know what a meme is, they define it for you. Amusing or interesting item, such as a caption, picture, or video, or genre of items. We got plenty of memes from the recent era and also from 2016. We're going to get into those at the end of the segment. Mackey and his co-conspirators variously discussed and debated aspects of these memes, including their content, their formatting, and the timing of their release, and expressed a desire that the memes would influence the behavior of those who saw them. Now, it's very curious that there are no memes in this document. Okay, I downloaded the document directly from the Department of Justice website. They describe the memes. They show you the language that's in the memes, but do we see the memes? No. Okay, we've seen that in other affidavits and other criminal complaints. I've showed you them here. We talked about this yesterday with Brandon Sarka. What was his name? Brandon Straka. And he was arrested, and same thing, he got indicted by an FBI person. And in that criminal complaint, there were all sorts of screenshots from the video. We could see exactly what it was. The FBI agent says he was shouting something. Boom, here's a screenshot from that time in the video. And other people are saying that that's not accurate. You can't tell it's him, and so on and so forth. But that's beside the point. What we're talking about here is the fact that the images aren't in here. I didn't see any exhibit or any attachments or exhibits or anything. They're just describing the text. So if the memes are so bad and so dangerous, why don't they show them to us? Because maybe they're not. It says here specifically in or on or about around September 2016, between September and November, these co-conspirators, these memeologists were just so dangerous. They were co-conspirators. They created and disseminated information over social media that claimed, among other things, supporters of the presidential candidate from one of the two main political parties, quote, the candidate, just say it was Clinton. We all know it's Clinton, should vote for the candidate by posting a specific hashtag. You could and you should vote by just posting a hashtag on Twitter. Okay, we all know what hashtags are. Hashtag impeachment party on Twitter or Facebook, or by texting the candidate's first name to a specific telephone code. Mackey and his co-conspirators conspired to design and distribute these images with the intent that supporters of the candidate would believe the fraudulent information and attempt to cast their votes via social media, and as a result would fail to cast their votes in the election in a legally valid manner. So just so dumb, you're just so stupid. If you see an image online, you just instantly believe whatever it tells you. You pick up your phone, you cast a vote, and you say, man, I was just great. I just participated in American democracy. Thank you, Ricky Vaughn 69 on Twitter. Here were some of his accounts. Ricky_Vaughn 99. We have at the Ricky Vaughn. We've got the return of Ricky Vaughn. And then these are the co-conspirators. We don't know who they are. Co-conspirator 1, 2, and 3. This is all from the complaint. And they're all, the dates of use. Ricky Vaughn was on Twitter, got booted off, was on Twitter again, got booted off again. And so he's kind of using multiple accounts. And they're just saying that he was, joined by all of these other, quote, co-conspirators, which were other people just making memes. In the months leading up to the election, Mackey's true identity and user was not publicly known. And it's very interesting in this complaint. They spend a pretty significant time here trying to identify this guy. I think this might actually be a good defense for him, that they don't necessarily know exactly who this is. When you see a probable cause complaint that spends a lot of time talking about an issue that, in most situations, it's just obvious. We just know the person. We know the identity of the person. And there are all these challenges that you can do in criminal law. If you don't know the person, you can have identification hearings. They got to prove that the person is who the person is, but who they claim it is. The person they claim is responsible for this is in actuality that same person. And so we see this a lot in criminal law. Cops will forget to, check an ID or something like that, and they just don't know who that person is. They can't prove it, and that's a big problem. And so in the other complaints that we've addressed here resulting from the Capitol Hill riots or any of the other complaints we've talked about, they don't hardly talk about identity at all. Here we see a lot. We see several pages that are all talking about identifying this guy. Who is this guy? Because he was anonymous for a very long period of time. Individuals who interacted with Ricky Vaughn have confirmed that the individual known as Ricky Vaughn is indeed Mackey. And so they go through, and it's kind of a laundry list. On April 2nd, 2018, a candidate running for Congress revealed on his website that Ricky Vaughn's real name was Mackey. So somebody posted that on Gab. April 3rd, 2018. This is after the election. 2 years after the election, they are still going after this guy. Still going after him. And why are they prosecuting this right now? Why didn't Trump's DOJ prosecute this? Because Biden's in office. It's the Biden DOJ now. They are very, very aggressive with going after anybody. They are still extremely angry that they lost in 2016. And so now it's time for retribution. They are going back 4 years. They're going back 2 years, 3 years now to 2018, 5 years back to 2016, and prosecuting people for the insult of putting Donald Trump in office. They are still bent out of shape over it. It's wild. It says here, on or about April 3rd, 2018, a podcast host, quote, the podcast host, revealed that Mackey had worked for his or her campaign. So another identification. Mackey apparently stated that he just got doxxed hardcore by the host, and they said it's on the podcast website. So all of the rest of this is about identification. FBI agents conducted a voluntary interview with the congressional candidate, and congressional candidate confirmed Ricky Vaughn's true name was, in fact, Mackey. Another one, FBI agents conducted a voluntary interview with a filmmaker. They also talked to Mackey about that documentary, the Ricky Vaughn persona. So just 3 full paragraphs looking for identification, and I think we've got more. I think I skipped one of them or a couple of them, but it's just wild that they went through so much trouble because somebody was posting memes on the internet. But that's the new Justice Department. Mackey posted numerous statements to a number of the accounts, account 1, account 2, among other things. Communication in public and private revealed the place of residency. Now they're noting that he lives in New York City, Vermont, Middlebury. A known biography, for example, revealed in private communications, previously and publicly associated. So this is it's continuing to go on. Identification, all of that. Then we finally get to the probable cause statement. So what was the real complaint here? What was the real problem? During the time period, Mackey and his co-conspirators, among other social media platforms, used Twitter, where you can tweet messages. Great. Timelines are distinct. They tell us a little bit about it. Twitter permits users to get into DMs or group messages. These groups are private, and users only may be added by one another. In 2016, Mackey and his account 1, had a large audience on Twitter, 58,000 followers at the time. They named him 1 out of 107 in terms of influencers, beating out NBC News, Colbert, Gingrich, and others. Mackey noted that. Said, well, this is unreal. Did not publicly identify himself during the time. On or about October 5th, Twitter suspended account 1, and he went over to Gab. He said, we all knew this was coming. Don't worry, I will return to Twitter soon. Then the use of Twitter, starting in at least 2015, so that's the run-up to the election, they participated, Mackey and others, in a number of group DMs. Dozens of individuals, overlapping membership, served as forums to share, among other things, their views concerning how to best influence the election, which is what happens at every single dinner table, every single political meeting, every single campaign. People assemble and they talk about what to do. Every political action committee, everybody who is, had a conversation about politics has thought about that. Well, how can I convince more people that I'm right and the other side is wrong? Happens all the time. But apparently this is disinformation and that is criminal. And this is conspiratorial now. Okay, this is not like them just observing. They're laying out the framework that they were in DMs, they were communicating on Twitter, they were refining and sharing memes and hashtags that would subsequently post and distribute. So they are conspiring to post memes. On December 25th, they exchanged messages in the Fed Free Hate Chat, suggesting that certain voters were hiding their desire to vote for a presidential candidate from one of two main political parties. They stated using account number 1, it's actually a great meme to spread. Make all these shit libs think that their setting context friends are secretly voting for candidate number 2. A participant in the group conversation, a Twitter user, described it as a perfect psyops. Okay, so psyops. We've hit upon meme magic motherload. The next day, Mackey used a different account. He said, if you need support, I am here for you. So this is the type of language that was being used, meme madness, and there was all these, centipede memes, and there was, the madman, Donald Trump's a madman, and it was just a wild online, burst of energy. And I do think that it probably was consequential to the election. A lot of people were involved in it, but is it criminal? Or is that just political activism? Let's take a look. We have several months later, on April 20th, 2016, Mackey and his associates exchanged messages in a group labeled InfoWars Madman, the Madman Group, relating to plans to alter images of various celebrities in a manner that falsely suggested the celebrities were supporting candidate 2's candidacy. So co-conspirator 1 suggested to the group to keep it in the waves consistent. Today is celebrity number 1. Tomorrow may be celebrity number 2 because the ride is good. Twitter users suggested other celebrity stuff. One added to be more effective and coordinated if they were all targeted together. I really like this idea, noting that they needed to out-meme their opponents. So the liberals were doing the same stuff, right? It's a meme war. Like literally, you've got both sides who are out there trying to out-meme one another. And I was living through this. I remember it. I remember going, this is wild. This is crazy. I've never seen such organized groups just, coming up with content and sharing ideas. And it was kind of fun and hilarious at the same time. The same day, Mackey used the account to discuss memes, stating, breaking news, celebrity 1 joins candidate number 2 train. Approximately 1 week later, account number 1 posted a similar meme to Twitter concerning a different celebrity breaking. And then they were retweeting each other's posts over and over. Now, this FBI agent, in case you don't know, she defines psyops for us. And here's what she says. Based on my training experience and the investigation to date, I believe that psyops stands for psychological operations and typically refers to military operations meant to influence the psychological state of a target audience. Can you believe this? So some memers are saying psyops out there, and this is referring to a military operation that is meant to influence the state of the target audience. It's just wild, folks. Finally, on or about October 28th, approximately 10 days before the election, the participants of both the Fed Free Hate Chat and the War Room, they discussed Our Daughters meme, suggesting that the candidate would provoke armed conflict and draft women to fight the resulting wars. And I saw a lot of these. So they were saying, there were all these memes out there, Hillary supports the draft. You should too, strong women for America, meme or something like that. And so, there were those going both back and forth from both directions. But of course, only the pro-Trump people are getting in trouble here. Members of both groups suggested that the meme would influence voters online. It should be distributed. Hashtag draft our daughters is trending. It's a trending and normie. Liberal women are freaking out about it. I need to do a tweet on that. It's hilarious. It's effing hilarious. It's eliciting sheer terror from the women vote. Lean in on it. I haven't seen a single issue making the shitlib women out there, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I probably should stop swearing a little bit, but I just get fired up about it. Numerous times, numerous memes, retweets of retweets, and on and on and on. The co-conspirators continue to use their efforts throughout this season, and they use the messaging functions to discuss and refine the memes, and they use the tweet function to include others. In both groups, they were discussing techniques for hijacking popular hashtags with memes, leveraging the network, getting a hashtag trending, using memes to appeal to normies. Mackey appeared to have outsized influence in these efforts due to his significant social media following and his related ability to generate conversations on the internet through his posting activity. So, folks, this is going on all over the internet, by the way. If you don't know this, both sides, everybody's doing this, right? Everybody is engaged in a meme war, a hashtag war. That is the entire purpose of Twitter. Do you understand that? If you've ever spent time on Twitter, it's just people dunking on one another constantly. And there is all disinformation. It's basically the whole thing is a cesspool of disinformation, and everybody knows this. This is why Twitter was introducing Birdwatch. This is why they're putting contextual tags on the stuff that they think is the most dangerous, and sort of silencing and sort of censoring and rate limiting what certain people can say that they don't they don't agree with. And if they don't like you that much, they just kick you off the platform, like they did with Donald Trump. So the entire internet is a cesspool of disinformation. That's kind of the point of the internet. You have the freedom to go and poke around into certain holes of the internet that may have bad information. You can go and find opposing information, and it's your job as a thinking, rational, living human being to decipher what's real and what's not. It's not for Twitter to solve that for you. It's not for Facebook to solve that for you. You got to use your brain. Here, apparently, they are the victim. Who is the victim of this? Apparently, it's people who can't use their brains. It's people who just see a meme and send a text in and think that they voted, even though that's never been endorsed by any government anywhere in the country, and it is not likely to happen ever. And so this is now a criminal crime. This is a criminal charge. Paragraph 20 says, dissemination of disinformation about voting. Starting on or about September 2016, Mackey and his co-conspirators began discussing, designing, and circulating memes related to the time, place, and manner of voting. And so this is some constitutional language. This is case law language, time, manner, and place. These memes, among other things, falsely claim that supporters of the candidate could cast a vote by posting on Facebook or Twitter by sending a text message to a specified code. Communications amongst them and co-conspirators demonstrate that the goal of the deceptive images was to influence viewers of the deceptive images to vote in a legally invalid manner. So that's it. If you influence voters to do anything, or at least here in a legally invalid manner, that's enough. On or about September 26, one Twitter user sent a message to the Madman group, said, vote Remain on the Facebook or Twitter account using the hashtag UERreferendum. UE referendum. Can we make something like this for the candidate they're talking about? And then on October 5th, Twitter suspended Mackey for that, for these deceptive images. And then this is a summary of these deceptive images. On or about October 16th, co-conspirator number 4 posted a deceptive image to the Madman group. Posted by co-conspirator included a photo of the candidate with the following text. So no image here, but just the text. Quote, your vote matters. And now it's easier than ever to cast your vote. Simply post Hillary Clinton with the hashtag presidential election on your Facebook or Twitter account between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. Together we can defeat Donald Trump and elect Hillary. Okay, so if you are literally somebody who believes that, I don't personally want you voting. Within minutes, members of the Madman group discussed ways to make the deceptive image more effective. One member of the group responded, don't post it yet, though. A week or less before the election, I'm making a version myself. Co-conspirator number 4, make sure to use the latest color schemes they have. So they were doing what they could to make this look official. I would get rid of the backslash and elect candidate backslash. The bottom part is tough. So they're talking about it. They're modifying the images. Approximately 12 minutes later, co-conspirator number 4, 3 each additional deceptive messages of the Madman group simply post, and so they're talking about how to modify the language. It's all very, very, very Basic stuff. Based on my training, experience, and the investigation to date, so this is the second time she's used that phrase, I believe that the concerns expressed by the co-conspirators and others regarding the timing and the appearance of the deceptive images indicate that they intended the deceptive images would be used to deceive their targets and thus sought to make the deceptive images appear as authentic as possible. Obviously, okay? On or about October 17th, same thing. Deceptive image number 4, we are proud to announce a new partnership between Facebook, Twitter, and the United States State Department. Now, you won't even have to leave your bedroom in order to vote. Simply post candidate name with vice president candidate name with the hashtag presidential election on your Facebook. There you go. Same thing. Co-conspirator number 4, another image. Voting for so-and-so just became easier. Just posted on Twitter, on Facebook. 3 minutes later, Madman responded, dopey libs will fall for it too. 7 minutes later, they posted another deceptive image. Twitter user posted another one. Vote early. Text the candidate's name to 59925 today. Paid for by the candidate. Must be 18 years or older to vote. They ended up looking up that number, and they saw a lot of text messages went to that number. November 6th, November 11th, same stuff. Now, they have a line here from Ricky Vaughn, who's, of course, Mackey, talking with another Twitter user. What did you do that got you suspended so many times? Mackey says, not sure. The first time was given no reason. The second time it was because I posted a meme that told Hillary supporters they could text to vote. LOL. We get to paragraph 31. In the final weeks before the election, Mackey stated his opinion about the outcome of election would be affected by voter turnout. Okay, by voter turnout. On or about, he says, don't be overconfident. The reality is, if Hillary gets turnout, and if the electorate really is heavily from Hillary's party, we will lose in a landslide. Doubtful. And if the electorate is from Trump's party and the candidate's party turn out their people, the Trump candidate wins. Approximately 2 weeks later, Mackey tweeted the following. Obviously, we can win Pennsylvania. The key is to drive out turnout with non-college whites and limit black turnout. Okay. Not a very nice color. It's a colorful statement. It's not something that I would endorse. But that is what every single political operative in this country is talking about. Every single one of them, all the time. How do we get our demographics to vote? This is just natural stuff. It says, on or about November 1st, the day before he sent the tweet, suggesting the importance of limiting black turnout. He says the picture featured an African-American woman standing in front of it. The fine print at the bottom said, must be 18. Same image. And it's got the hashtags Go Candidate and another slogan frequently used by the candidate. According to Twitter records, it was retweeted 175 times, favorited 165 times. Used another account, same type of image, deceptive image, same message. This one was written entirely in Spanish. Logo of the candidate's campaign, link to the website, favorited 19 times, retweeted 23 times. So these are not even big numbers, quite frankly. They contained the deceptive images, included the hashtags. Twitter users who searched for the tweets could have been exposed. Yeah, they could have been exposed to this deceptive images. Oh my gosh. Accordingly, the use of the hashtags enabled Mackey to spread the deceptive images to a wider audience. Twitter began removing those images, and people were thanking him. Hey, Ricky Vaughn, thanks for spreading the word. According to the text records, 4,900 unique telephone numbers texted the candidate's first name. They texted Hillary. So they saw it, and they sent a text message to it. Of approximately 4,900 numbers, 4,850 or 99% of them sent their text to Mackey after Mackey first tweeted the deceptive image from Mackey account 2. Therefore, they're asking that an arrest warrant be issued for Ricky Vaughn so he may be dealt with according to the law. It is respectfully requested this affidavit and all this be sealed because it could jeopardize the investigation. So that's that, folks. You now are being prosecuted for memes. 5 years later, by the way. This took place in 2015, 2016. You have the Justice Department who is blaming people. I mean, this is what they're claiming, that you're interfering. Okay, I don't particularly endorse anything that was here. You know, I enjoyed a lot of the memes. I don't like those types of memes. I don't think that they're useful. I don't think that they're funny. I don't think that they're effective. And yeah, there is a possibility that maybe some people are confused. Like I said, I think if you are confused by that, if you think you can vote by text message, you probably don't have a lot to add to how our country is being governed. If you literally, and I have some kind of strong issues on voting, but it's one of those things that, did people really fall for this? Or are they criminalizing the memes here because of the potential of it? Have they been able to prove that anybody didn't vote as a result of this? I'm sure they can find a couple people. How do you prove that? How do you prove that this meme actually caused people to not go and vote, or it actually infringed on their rights? You can have a lot of disgust about the meme. You can say it was inappropriate. I think it was inappropriate. I don't think it was a good thing to do. It was not useful. It was not productive. It was not something that a person would do acting out of integrity. But they were, in my opinion, they were joking around. They were a part of this meme war. Both sides were doing it in 2016. And to be charged with a crime for just literally just posting stuff on the internet is a new Pandora's box that scares the ever-living hell out of me, honestly, because that is not what this country is about. You're allowed to say things. You're allowed to lie. You're allowed to be dishonest in many situations. That's free speech. You can be a liar. You can be dishonest. Your reputation is at stake, unless you're being dishonest or lying about something that is criminal. You know, if you're breaching a contract or you're lying to the feds about something, you know, there are certain types of lies that are criminalized. But you can lie. You can put out bad memes. You can be an all-around asshole in this country if you want to. That's not a crime. That's what these people were doing. And so now they're saying criminal charges are warranted just by posting stuff on the internet without even being able to prove the back end. We just read through the entire document. I skipped like 4 paragraphs. It's 24 pages. No indication here that they have even a single witness that says, I didn't vote because I saw that meme. I didn't vote because I sent a text message to that. Nothing in there. Just the fact that somebody from behind a computer screen was posting something that would go out into the face of the world. That's criminal. We're not talking about child pornography or anything like that. Okay, this is a meme by their own definition. And he's arrested in custody. Probably facing a pretty serious charge based on these prosecutors. They got 3 U.S. attorneys investigating this. They went and did multiple interviews with a number of people from around this country, congressional candidates and other politicians, to say, hey, you know this guy? He was bouncing around podcasts. The whole thing was a joke. No evidence that this actually caused any voter disenfranchisement. And even if there were, is that reasonable? You have to ask yourself, right? Is it reasonable for a person who's receiving this message to say, oh yeah, okay, great. Okay, people say stupid stuff all the time. If we criminalized every stupid thing that a person said and did, this whole country would be incarcerated. Everybody would. Have you ever been wrong or done something wrong in your life? I have. I've been wrong many times. I've said a lot of stupid things, and I've said a lot of things that were factually incorrect. Is that a crime to be wrong? No, it's not a crime to be wrong. At least it wasn't. I mean, we could be close to that now. It's disinformation. They're criminalizing disinformation. Who gets to decide what that disinformation is? Very scary stuff. All right, let's look at some memes, okay? Let's cheer this place up a little bit. Let's look at some memes. Now, some of these are good, some of these are not so good. I posted over on Locals. I said, hey, if you have any good memes, throw them in the thread like 45 minutes before the show started. So I haven't seen if anything's over there. Probably not. But you know, we were looking at some Biden memes, and they're just a little bit subpar. Not as hilarious as some of the 2016 memes. So we've got some of those. Let's take a look at some of these Joe Biden memes. And look, hey, by the way, if you see these memes, do your independent research, okay? Don't go and vote for somebody or not based on these memes, okay? I am not in here trying to get in the crosshairs of 3 whack job U.S. attorneys who are prosecuting disinformation. Shouldn't have said that. Probably just got in their crosshairs. But let's take a look at some of these memes. Use your educated reason, use your judgment, use your logic before you go do something like this. So, for example, if you were thinking about buying a socialist doll of Joe Biden, don't do that. Okay, this is just a meme. This is not legitimate information. This is a cartoon, and you got to be careful here. So this meme says, something is wrong with him. He talks, but he doesn't make any sense. It's socialism, man. Joe Biden and his son Hunter, made in China. Okay, so it's a funny image, right? And this lady's got one. They both got their masks on. They're returning the Biden Superman doll that says it's Joe Biden and his son Hunter. He's talking, but it doesn't make any sense. This was written over by somebody at creators.com. Looks like Gary Varvel. right? GaryVarvel.com. So check him out. So obviously a very dangerous meme. Here's another one. This one is Joe Biden in a wheelchair. Hey, we did it, Kamala. We won that White House. And then she just throws him right off the cliff. Huh? How's about that one? How's about this one? Here are some of the other ones from Joe Biden that are, they're just kind of average. When you successfully became president, but everyone only talks about Bernie's mittens. Oh, this is a meme. Is everybody only talking about Bernie's mittens? That sounds like disinformation to me. Criminal charge right there. Disinformation being put out into the public. My gosh. I mean, should voters now just only think about Bernie's mittens because this was in a meme? How about this one? Obama. What's wrong? Joe says, I just think it's funny how Obama goes, here we go. Joe says, he's your new BFF. Obama says, it was just a handshake, Joe. And here's Joe Biden in the background with a little frowny face. Womp, womp. Do voters really think that this happened? This conversation happened? I don't think that it happened, but I could be wrong. This could also be disinformation. Here's another conversation. Hey, Joe, we crossed the street 10 minutes ago. You can let it go now. Joe says, I'm not ready yet. Look at them holding hands right here. Obama says, but I have to conduct a meeting. Joe says, you can do both, Barry. Did they really have that conversation? Were they really holding hands in the Oval Office? Or is this a stupid meme? It's a stupid meme. Here's another one. So this kind of looks like Joe Biden, but ladies and gentlemen, voters out there, this is not really Joe Biden. Okay. This is Joe Biden's face superimposed on an image. It's not really him, by the way. It says, tells America he never spied on General Flynn. Government releases proof he spied on General Flynn. All right, well, there's some facts in there. There's some information in there. Is this a criminal charge? Did the government really release proof that he spied on General Flynn? Somebody better fact check that. These U.S. attorneys better do some interviews with everybody out there in this country to determine whether the creator of this meme is spreading disinformation. Here's another one. I'm Joe Message, and I approve this Biden. From Joe. Did he say that? Is that an illegal meme? I think that was an illegal meme. Let's see. Are there any more illegal memes here? Guess who is not getting a laptop for Christmas this year? We got Joe Biden Hunter. That, I don't know if that one's illegal per se. Here are some other good ones from 2016. Here's Donald Trump. Was Donald Trump really a Napoleonic figure riding a horse with this face? Probably not. Here's another one from Batman. But I called you racist. And you think that gives you power over me, says Bane with a MAGA hat on. A lot of these from 2016. Here's another one. Somebody's spraying their gun with liberal tears. This is a meme. This is a meme that gets spread around gun owners and Second Amendment advocates. Are they really shooting a can of liberal tears into this firearm? I'm going to guess not. Oh, here's one that looks kind of familiar. This one is a meme that is based off of a news agency. So remember, one of the chief complaints here that the FBI had was some of this stuff looked pretty official. This one looks pretty official. This looks like it might actually be, part of the news of Channel 4 down here at 5:09 p.m. Cracking the teen texting code. DJT equals Donald Trump. MAGA equals Make America Great Again. LE, if your teen is texting that, it means low energy for low energy Jeb Bush. And GS means got schlonged. Remember that? So is Channel 4 really reporting got schlonged on their news? Remember Donald Trump said, I think Hillary Clinton got schlonged by somebody? A bunch of media hubbub about that. Everybody's very upset about that. Here's another meme of Donald. Do you think that Donald really looks like that under his shirt? Is this disinformation? I don't think so. Here's another meme. Hillary voters be like, never Trump, right? That was a mean one. That was mean. But it was a meme. Is that illegal? Was that person really a Hillary voter? I have no idea. Maybe. Here's another one that looks a little bit official. Breaking news. The Trump wall was completed. Look at this thing. It's a nice looking wall. Was it actually completed, according to this breaking news? Did President Trump really complete the wall under budget, ahead of schedule, 10 feet taller than planned? I don't know. Looks like disinformation to me. Maybe there should be some investigation into that. How about some of these? How about we got the number of times that Harambe was murdered during the Obama administration? Well, one time. Obama has it all. Only one president is responsible for the murder of Harambe. Barack Obama. George Bush has 0 Harambe deaths. Clinton, 0 Harambe. Bush 1, 0 Harambe. Reagan, 0 Harambes. Obama was responsible for the only death of Harambe in the history of this country, folks. That's not disinformation. This is an accurate meme. We have another one from, this was posted over there. All the Joe Biden sniffing memes. Why did we forget the Joe Biden sniffing memes? Joe Biden sniffing Hillary Clinton. Did he really sniff her? Or was this just a close, was this a fake image? How about Joe Biden sniffing the Statue of Liberty? Or Joe Biden sniffing the flag? All sorts of Joe Biden memes. Are those illegal disinformation? None of these things happened. None of those things happened. Probably. The China people, I don't know. Maybe he sniffs the Chinese. I don't know. It's troubling stuff. It's troubling stuff. I do not endorse those other memes, the ones that he was, spreading around, encouraging people to vote. I want people to vote. I want people to vote legally and lawfully. But to charge him with a crime for that, and to say that he's a co-conspirator and he is depriving people of their voting rights by posting images on the internet, depriving them. Okay, if you're standing in front of a voting building with a gun, that's a deprivation of their rights. If you are, stealing ballots out of a ballot box or not returning them, that's a deprivation of rights. If you are, let's say you are a Supreme Court and you are just changing the election laws on your own, a month before the election, a couple days before the election, in violation of what I would consider to be the constitutional purview of the legislature. They're the ones who are under the U.S. Constitution responsible for that. Is the Supreme Court depriving people of their rights? Yeah, arguably, yeah, you could make the same case. I would say much more so, much more directly than somebody posting memes on Twitter. And they're going to say that this is responsible for undermining the confidence in the American election system. Somebody posting memes. Not all of the lies that anybody in the media promotes, not any of the lies that are allowed to be retweeted and posted ad nauseum on Twitter over and over and over and over again. This is just the nature of conversation. This is how people communicate. This is political life. And now we have a Department of Justice that is prosecuting these crimes on the basis of what they determine to be information and illegal information. And then they reference some vague U.S. code that can literally mean anything. That can apply to anything. If anybody's oppressed or intimidated for any reason. And by the way, you don't even have to prove whether they were actually intimidated or oppressed. You don't have to prove it because they didn't in this probable cause case. They think there's enough evidence here to move forward with the charge. Just based on the fact that it went out into the world. Have not seen any evidence that people were actually disenfranchised, actually oppressed, actually intimidated. Elections have consequences, and we are seeing them loud and clear out of the Department of Justice. More criminal charges for utter nonsense. We're going to follow this case pretty hard, so stick around if you want to see how that goes. All right, so let's fly through some other stuff because I spent an hour on that case. Here's Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell is seeking the dismissal of a criminal case. This article comes over from the Washington Post. Ghislaine asked a U.S. judge to dismiss to dismiss the criminal case accusing her of recruiting teenage girls for Jeffrey Epstein for sexual abuse, citing various grounds, including that there was an agreement to not prosecute Jeffrey Epstein. If you remember, there was an agreement. He entered an agreement with some district attorney down in Florida, I think it was. Court filings on Monday night, last night, lawyers for Ghislaine complained that not enough Black and Hispanic grand jurors were used to indict her. Parts of the indictment were too vague, should be thrown out. Spokesman for U.S. Attorney Audrey Strauss declined to comment. They're going to respond in a couple weeks. She pled not guilty. She pled not guilty to helping Epstein recruit and so on. Trial is scheduled for July 12th. It says here, under a non-prosecution agreement now widely viewed as a sweetheart deal, Epstein agreed to plead guilty in 2008 to the Florida state prostitution charges. 13-month jail sentence, avoided life. And so they're trying to say, and I remember this, I think if actually you watch that Netflix documentary, that this was a wild deal that was negotiated. I don't really remember that what that deal was about, but it was a wild deal. Lawyers for Epstein plan to invoke the agreement in his defense before the 66-year-old killed himself, allegedly, on August 2019. So here is a copy of the document. It's Maxwell versus Guffrey, filed in the District Court, the Southern District of New York. And we'll take a look here. The court's in receipt of the letter from Ms. Maxwell requesting 1, limited reconsideration of the court's order to unseal Maxwell's deposition. Number 2, clarification of the court's ruling to other lines in the transcript. And as to number 1, they're going to file a response by a certain period of time until the court rules on Maxwell's request for reconsideration. As to number 2, Maxwell asked the court for confirmation that the following lines of the deposition should not be redacted. Those portions are unsealed and so on. Do we have... I think we may have clipped the wrong order here. I was looking for the order from the judge, but maybe that's not posted yet. But the point is, the judge is now in receipt of a new order from Ghislaine Maxwell. We're going to see what the judge rules on that. I'm going to guess that that motion is going to be denied handily. So they're now making a claim that, so let's back up and explain kind of what's going on here. When Ghislaine Maxwell was brought into custody, one of the things that the federal government has to do is go through a grand jury indictment, a grand jury proceeding where they indict her. And a grand jury proceeding takes place behind closed doors, and you don't really know who's there. It's a secretive meeting. The defense has some limited ability to make some appearances, send some letters in, and do some very, very limited defense work at this stage. It's mostly for the government to present a case to a jury of your peers, and then they will get to decide whether whether there's enough probable cause to move forward with charges against you. And so what Ghislaine is saying is that too many white people on there. And white people, I guess, are not good jurors for her. So we'll see what the judge does with that. Probably appealing to the judge. It's not going to go anywhere, I don't think. So good effort, though, Ghislaine. Let's talk about George Floyd. George Floyd, these cases are still pending and moving forward. And when I talk about cases, George Floyd is obviously not with us anymore. May he rest in peace. But the 4 prosecutors who were there at the scene, they are still being prosecuted for their involvement in his death. And let's take a look at what's going on. Over from Minnesota CBS local affiliate, judge denies a motion to admit prior evidence of George Floyd's arrests as evidence. So they're not going to admit any of those priors, which is a good thing if you are the prosecution, because you do not want the defense to rub George Floyd's name in the mud. A judge has shot down the motion on behalf of 4 officers facing charges in the death of George Floyd. Lawyers for the now fired Minneapolis officers, we got Derek Chauvin, Tou Thao, we got J. Alexander Kueng, we've got Thomas Lane. They wanted to admit evidence in Floyd's May 6, 2019 arrest and his subsequent admission into HCMC. And so that's probably a local jail or mental health facility or something like that. 3 body cam videos were released that showed different perspectives. All showed Floyd with the officers. He was a passenger in an unlicensed stop. He failed to comply with officers' initial request. It shows a false narrative by the state, said Earl Gray, Lane's attorney. The state is portraying Mr. Floyd as somebody that he isn't. And if you see the 2019 video and compare them, they're almost identical. So WCCO spoke with Joe Tamburino, a Minneapolis attorney who isn't associated with the case. He says it's a big blow. I would imagine the judge is keeping this out because it goes to character evidence of Mr. Floyd, and character evidence is normally not admissible at trial. He also says there is also a setback for the prosecution, which wanted 8 of Chauvin's prior acts to be admitted as evidence. Cahill only approved 2. In one case, Chauvin knelt on the neck of, so they're looking, all right, so let me back up here before I get into Chauvin stuff. So what this attorney said here, that it is a big blow because they're trying to introduce character evidence of Mr. Floyd. And so, from a higher level perspective, what they're talking about specifically is, George Floyd had prior interactions with law enforcement preceding his death. And so now that the cops are being charged, it's sort of hard to keep track of everything because normally the cops are on the prosecutor's team. In this case, they're not. They're defendants. Normally, a person like George Floyd, who was being investigated by the police, is the defendant. But they killed him. So they're the defendants. They're being prosecuted by the government. So it's kind of hard to keep track of it when you've got a prosecutor charging police because normally they're on the same side. So now what's happening is the defendants, the cops, are saying they're being charged with George Floyd's death, and they're wanting to introduce evidence into the court that says, well, hey, look, the media and everybody's making George Floyd to be out this, this great guy, and he's not so great because of these prior interactions. We have evidence that this is a repetitive thing, and their argument, of course, is going to be that they needed to use that level of force based on the fact that they have prior interactions with George Floyd, which is, in my opinion, it's totally character evidence. This is something that I think would be what was properly kept out. You look at a rule called 403, whether the evidence is more probative or prejudicial. So you sort of weigh these two factors. Is the evidence of George Floyd's prior record, is that something that would help us determine as a trier of fact, as a court, as a jury? Would that help us determine whether or not what the officers did on that particular day was legitimate, was necessary, was excessive force? Would it help? Is it relevant? In my opinion, no, it's not at all, right? He could have 100 arrests. He could have 0 arrests. Doesn't matter. What they did on that day was awful and horrendous, and they have to deal with the consequences. So by them trying to get it in, you would just factor those into the analysis. Is it more probative or is it more prejudicial? You weigh those out, put them on a scale. Here, is his prior acts probative? Well, not really, because he got out of the car and they just threw him right on the ground. There's 4 guys on him, and then Chauvin had his knee on his neck, and that was it. 9 minutes later. So they could make an argument that they had seen him previously and that he was a violent man or whatever, and so they needed to sort of increase their level of force, but it doesn't look like anything would have bolstered that argument. And so the judge just looked at the facts and said, nope, this is too prejudicial. If I allow you to bring this evidence into court, then all the jury is going to do is just say, he's just a bad guy. Look at all of these records. And they're not going to be able to view this case on the merits. So the judge kept it out. They said, nope, it's too prejudicial. It's not probative enough. It's not giving us new information that's going to be useful in this case. So the judge threw it out. Now, let's flip that around. So now the prosecutor here is trying to get evidence about Derek Chauvin, the officer who did have his knee on George Floyd's neck. They're trying to get that information also in. So the defense was saying, hey, George Floyd's a bad guy. Can we talk about that? Court said no. Prosecutor said, hey, Derek Chauvin's a bad guy. Can we talk about that? Court said, not really. Let's take a look at this next piece. It says here there was also a setback for the prosecution, which wanted 8 of Chauvin's prior acts admitted as evidence. Cahill only approved 2. In one case, Chauvin knelt on the neck of a woman who was on the ground. In another, Chauvin saw 2 other officers place a man in a side recovery position. So they are letting that in, and I think that's pretty interesting. Now, they wanted to get 8 in, but they only got 2 in, so there are 6 other incidents that the jury is not going to hear. But whether it's the 2019 video or Chauvin's prior conduct, Tamburino says the door is shut but not locked. Mind you, these are all decisions that have happened now 6 weeks from trial. The parties could revisit them. They could ask the judge as the trial goes on to revisit them. Be aware there will be more and more surprises. Cahill denied a motion earlier this month to rejoin all trials of all 4. Denied the state's request to push the start of the trial to summer. Chauvin's trial will still begin on March 8th. Wow, that is really soon. I'm surprised that it's still going on. It's going so soon. Cahill also allowed the prosecution the right to enter what is known a Blakely phase after the end of trial. If Chauvin is found guilty, it will allow the state to sentence him to more prison time than what Minnesota guidelines call for. If Chauvin is found not guilty, some legal observers say it's possible and even likely that the charges could be dropped against the other 3 former officers. This is going to be a wild scene in March. So buckle up for it. Let's fly through the article because I spent way too much time on the first segment. And we've got Derek Chauvin. This is the state of Minnesota versus all 3 of these individuals, and they're talking about whether to admit this evidence or not. We already covered most of it. Defendant's motion to admit the Rule 404B evidence. So this is the government now arguing, this is the defense arguing that this stuff should get in. They're talking about Floyd's arrest in Minneapolis on May 6th. They're talking about Floyd's August 2007 conviction for armed robbery. They've got another one. It looks like Lane filed a notice of motion to admit Floyd's incident from October 16th, 2020. Another one from November 16th. Kueng filed a supplemental offer of proof along with several exhibits. Tou, another officer, filed the same thing. We have another one from Kueng, and on and on and on. The state motion to admit Rule 404B evidence, which is character evidence. The state filed a notice of intent. So this is what they're looking for. March 5th, this is Chauvin. March 15th, Chauvin's use of restraint technique. February 15th, so about a year later, Chauvin's use of restraint technique. Another one, participation in the detention and transport of an individual to a hospital. Another use of a restraint, another use of a restraint, another use of a restraint. So over 2014, 2015, another one 2015, 2017, two in 2017, 2018, another restraint. Use of force and restraint. Thao filed a notice of intent to offer other evidence. 9 incidents involving Thao. So this is the government now seeking to introduce bad acts against their own officers, which just doesn't happen very often. Does not happen frequently. So we got a crime scene, October 27th. Thao sat in his car while other officers on the scene carried out law enforcement duties, which conduct the state indicates was addressed by his field training officer. He inappropriately remained with his squad to holler at people outside their residence. Another situation down here contends that the FTO reported that Thao forgot details but then made guesses and included factually incorrect information in his reports. He dismissively and insubordinately responded to feedback from his FTO, which is his field training officer, and refused to respond to training, leading to his field training time being extended. So sort of insubordination there. Multiple occasions where he intentionally avoided responding to situations. Spoke to civilians in manners that was characterized as, quote, attempting to talk his way out of filing legitimate reports. Can you believe this crap from these cops? An August 2017 incident, he allegedly attempted to manipulate a domestic violence victim to respond to questions in a manner enabling Thao to avoid generating a domestic assault report. Alleged dishonesty and expediency were the subject of police review. So the guy's just lazy, doesn't want to do his work. Kueng did the same thing, another notice. Here, against Kueng. Same 8 incidents involving Chauvin covered. Same 9 incidents come. Let's see. Memorandum of law. All right. So the rest of it is basically the same stuff. And here's the order. All of the defendant's motions to admit the Rule 404B evidence at trial are denied. So nothing about George Floyd is coming in here. Which is good news. The state's motion to admit 404B evidence is granted in part and denied in part. The state may introduce evidence of a 2015, but the other 6 incidents are denied. All of the Tou Thao stuff looks like it's denied. All of the Kueng stuff is denied. So it's drafted by Peter Cahill, and that's the update on George Floyd. So that trial looks like it's still scheduled for early March, which is going to be a wild scene. All right, let's talk about the Capitol Hill now. Capitol Hill Police. This is an interesting article. Capitol Hill Police. We were talking about this yesterday. It may have been Chris or who was that who asked that question? John, somebody asked a question about what's going on with Capitol Hill. This is interesting. According to lawandcrime.com, Capitol Police admit they knew of strong potential for violence from the militia groups and white supremacist organizations before the January 6th siege. This was written yesterday at 4:18 p.m. The acting chief of the U.S. Capitol Police admitted her department's failures and culpability for the early siege in the Capitol building on Tuesday. Yogananda Pittman, the acting head of the federal agency tasked with protecting the national seat of government, as well as the broader District of Columbia, also noted that the Capitol Police, quote, knew that there was a strong potential for violence, but did not sufficiently act on the information that it had about the threat posed by various, quote, militia groups and white supremacist organizations. So they knew about it. Those admissions were shocking, but not surprising, as multiple public videos and firsthand accounts of the failed January 6th insurrection, that's hilarious, at least some police officers resigned themselves to the deadly situation and even permitted the mob to enter the Capitol, as some charged rioters have claimed as a defense. The testimony, which came during a digital meeting with the House Appropriations Committee, so the House is investigating this stuff, was littered with profuse apologies for law enforcement's widely criticized response to the attack. She says, quote, I am here to offer my sincerest apologies on behalf of the department. Let me be clear, the department should have been more prepared for this attack, Pittman added. By January 4th, the department knew that the January 6th event would not be like any of the previous protests held in 2020. We knew that the militia groups and white supremacist organizations would be attending. We also know that some of these participants were intending to bring firearms and other weapons to the event. We knew that there was a strong potential for violence and that Congress was the target. So why on January 5th did Mayor Bowser literally disavow any additional help? Why did the Sergeant of Arms from both the House and the Senate say we don't want to bring anybody because of optics? We don't want any more support because the optics would be bad. Why did the Chief of Police Sund, who was the former Chief of Police, why did he resign? Why is he out there saying multiple times, I made requests, but I was denied? Who's responsible for this? Who got this information on January 4th? By January 4th, she says, the department knew. Okay, what did you do with that information? Who knew? What'd they do with that? Where'd that information go? And I want to know who basically denied the additional support, who told them to stand down. I'd like to know who was responsible for it. If it's Trump, so be it. If it's somebody in his White House, good to know. We should know that. And there should be some serious ramifications. Pittman, for her part, was effusive in laying blame at her agency's feet while noting that some victories amidst the rubble and 5 lives lost. On January 6th, in the face of a terrorist attack, the department failed to meet its own high standards. Although the department fulfilled its mission of protecting members of Congress, we're horrified, millions of Americans. We fully expect to answer to you and the American people for our failings on January 6th. Well, I hope so. I do hope so. Because we need to know the answers. Looks like this was posted over on Twitter by Ross Garber. Says, so Capitol Police now admit they knew of potential for violence. What was the extent of the FBI's knowledge? DHS, Secret Service? What was communicated to the White House, particularly the Chief of Staff, to Trump? Will subpoenas for info be issued in connection with the impeachment process? Good questions there, Ross Garber. I have a lot of the same questions myself. Or was this political the other direction? Democratic mayor? I don't know. But I would like to know. I think that there are a lot of people who benefited from that. A lot of people with a lot of levers of power. And this whole thing was known. They knew that it was coming on January 4th. Mayor Bowser on January 5th disavowed additional help. What happened on January 6th? Now, is this incitement? Did Donald Trump incite this? Because my understanding was when he was speaking, he incited the violence by saying things like, if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. He also said you should also peaceably, go down there and protest. Or he said, go down there peacefully and support our great congresspeople. Something like that. How did he incite this insurrection, allegedly? On January 6th, when it was being planned on January 4th, how did his speech trigger that? When the whole thing was already in motion? Well, it didn't. That's why this whole impeachment thing is a charade. Now they're extending the scope of this. It wasn't just the speech. Now it's everything else. It's lies and lies and lies. And it's also disinformation. Disinformation. Everything's disinformation now. So you just see how this is just trickling down. The snowball is rolling down the mountain now. This is Yogananda Pittman. She is the American law enforcement officer. She's the acting chief of the U.S. Capitol Police. Selection was made on January 11, 2021, following the storming of the Capitol, the resignation of Stephen Sund. So that's who's in charge over there now. Stephen Sund, we talked about it. He resigned immediately thereafter. All right, couple updates on the Biden administration. Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader now, says that they're considering expanding the number of courts and judges to offset former President Donald Trump's appointment of more than 200 federal judges to the federal benches. Very, very angry about that. During an interview on Monday with Rachel Maddow, Schumer was asked how the Senate will be able to rebalance the judiciary after Trump stacked it with conservatives. 51 votes allows us to put judges on the bench and report them out of committee, Schumer said. There will be lots of vacancies that come up. I think there are a lot of judges, Democratic appointees who didn't take senior status while Trump was president, who now will, and they stay on the bench, but then we get to fill it. So first up, we can fill up a lot. Second, traditionally, we have increased the number in the lower and circuit courts. I have in the city of Buffalo they don't have enough judges. There's a long line before you get to court. We could expand those. Expanding the Supreme Court, Schumer said that's the big one. He said President Biden has got together a commission to study increasing seats on the court to more than 9 justices, which will issue a report in 180 days. He wouldn't say whether he supports that. Instead, he says, I'll wait for the commission support. So, folks, this is coming. I think that they are coming to pack the court, and they're going to try to pack it hard. They've got 2 years to cram this through, and they are very upset about the fact that Donald Trump appointed 3 Supreme Court judges and filled up the rest of the federal judiciary. So this is on the radar. They have 2 branches of government, but they don't have the third, and that really irritates them. So they're going to try to modify the 9, make it 15 so they get to appoint a bunch of other judges. And, well, that kind of just changed the whole structure of the government, wouldn't it? As I said, elections have consequences. Biden also orders the Department of Justice to phase out contracts with private prisons. On Tuesday, ordered the Department of Justice to end its reliance on private prisons and acknowledge the central role the government has played in implementing discriminatory housing policies. Needs to change its whole approach on the issue of racial equity. A lot of racial equity talk coming out. The nation is less prosperous and secure because of the scourge of systemic racism. We must change it now, he said. I know it's going to take time, but I can do it. I know we can do it. I firmly believe the nation is ready to change, but the government has to change as well. The order to end the reliance on privately run prisons directs the Attorney General not to renew the Justice Department contracts with privately operated criminal detention facilities. The move will effectively revert the Justice Department to the same posture it held at the end of the Obama administration. The first step is to stop corporations from profiting off of incarceration. So, all right. So, another update. So, this was an interesting story out of Philadelphia. 10 years ago, there was a Philadelphia teacher who was found dead in her apartment, and her death was ruled a suicide. But today, they learned a little bit more, and they are asking investigators to reopen the case. Another one from CBS Local. A woman found stabbed 20 times was murdered, according to this groundbreaking investigation. She was found dead, and it has not gotten any easier in the decades since her death. Something changed, though. Josh Greenberg said they're trying to get justice for Ellen. Back on January 26, Ellen was a 27-year-old teacher. She was found dead inside her Manayunk apartment with 20 stab wounds to the body. 20 stab wounds, okay? I'd like to bring this to a conclusion as promptly as possible. The Greenberg's attorney says that the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office initially ruled the case a homicide, but later changed it to a suicide. So you get stabbed 20 times, and that's a suicide. Last year, Eyewitness News was shown an exclusive look at the image. At the time, the family's attorney called it new forensic evidence, which he said proves Ellen could not have stabbed herself 20 times. On Tuesday, 10th anniversary of her death, Podraza is releasing new evidence, contradicts the investigators' initial claim that Ellen searched online for phrases like methods of committing suicide. So apparently that's why they were ruling it a suicide, because allegedly there was some indication that she was trying to search for that stuff. We do have a forensic evaluation of the hard drive of Ellen's computer or laptop, which will definitively establish she was not predisposed in searches towards death or suicide or things of that nature. Sent that information to the Attorney General's office in Pennsylvania, asking them to reopen the case. And the spokesman said, our hearts go out to the family. At the urging of the family and following a conflict, our office has reviewed the case, conducted an extensive investigation that did not uncover evidence to change the medical examiner's finding of suicide. There's no statute of limitations on homicide, and if any new evidence is brought forward, we believe it should be reviewed by the proper authorities. At this time, no new information has been shared with our office. Said he plans to go to trial later this year with the city to prove the death should be ruled a homicide, not a suicide. Justice delayed is justice denied, he says. And they've suffered for 10 years in the making. More than 27,000 people have signed a change.org petition asking for justice. And there's a Facebook group called @JusticeForEllen 2019. Looks like it's got 16,000 likes, 17,000 people following it. So you can go check that out. Apparently, you can stab yourself 20 times to kill yourself. Seems a little bit far-fetched to me, but apparently they've done an investigation, and that's their conclusion. All right. And lastly, we have a little story, quick story from Canada. Breaking, Trudeau minister says online hate legislation is coming very soon. So for those of you in Canada and for those of you in America, this is probably coming down the pike. So we can just look at the canary in the coal mine up in Canada. Heritage Minister Stephen Guilbeault said today that online hate legislation would be coming, quote, very soon, also citing two polls, one showing 93% of Canadians think that online hate speech and racism are a problem. 80% of Canadians want social media companies to be required to remove that stuff within 24 hours. Today in Parliament, the conclusions of the survey are clear. Hate speech has no place in our society. It's time to step up against online hate. The numbers are disturbing, but they come as no surprise. He continued, quote, almost half of Canadians either have experienced or seen violent or hateful content online. Canadians want us to act, and that's exactly why we intend to introduce legislation. Our approach will acquire online. So I think this article says acquire, but I think it means require online platforms to eliminate illegal content such as hate speech, terrorist and violent extremism, child pornography, and the non-consensual sharing of intimate images online. In other words, revenge porn. Guilbeault says recently his department is working on legislation that would, quote, move the burden of being able to take down a video from the individual who's a victim of this to the companies. So just more made up speech limitations, speech protections under the guise of hate speech and disinformation and, extremism. All right. So that's what's going on in Canada. At least they're not arresting people for posting stuff on the internet yet. It's probably coming down the pike. Maybe they are. I don't know. But, very, 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 very concerning stuff if you are somebody who believes in free speech, free ideas, a marketplace of ideas, and that includes the bad stuff. It's not just free speech. That doesn't just mean nice, polite, pleasant, fact-checked information. Okay, it includes the ugly stuff. It includes bad ideas. It includes dangerous ideas. That's the point of having free speech. Don't you understand that, government? Oh, God. All right, let's jump into the super chats before I go off. We have another one, our first one, actually, not another one, our very first one from Sharon Quidney. Good to see you, Sharon. And here she is. She says, I heard today that some people are getting booted off social media, Twitter, not for anything in particular they said, but because of who they are and for conservative opinions. What can we do? Well, you just got to move. Just go over to Locals, go over to Gab, go over to MeWe, I think is the name of another one. You got to find a different platform. I mean, I think that's kind of the final thing. You just got to say, all right, I'm done. I'm not going to use that stuff anymore. Support these new companies, contribute to them financially, pay for the service, whatever you need to do. Go to Locals, go to Gab, go to MeWe. Because it's just, there's an exodus. And I think that's the only way that this is going to cause any introspection from these big tech companies. And you're going to see, I think what you're going to see, truthfully, folks, is them want to go in and adjust the rules to say, you're right, mea culpa, we screwed up here. We're going to change some things because they can comply. They are massive behemoth companies. All right, remember, so the example here was Amazon. Remember, Amazon for a very long time didn't want taxes. They did not want to pay taxes because they were arguing that they didn't have physical location in different states. They were spending millions of dollars on lawsuits, making sure that they didn't have to pay taxes. But once they got big enough and now they have a physical presence in every state, now they're okay paying taxes. We'll pay all the taxes in the world. Why? Because they know that any competitor that pops up is now going to have a major barrier to entry. They're going to have to pay all the same taxes that Amazon did not have to pay taxes in order to grow to its size. Now that they're on the top, they're pulling the ladder up from the other guys who also want to go up that chain, but they can't do it now. Now, all of these online businesses are getting taxed. And so it's the same concept here. So Twitter, Facebook, and these other entities are saying, well, you're right, our fault, regulate the hell out of us, because they know that they can afford to do it. But the little guys, the Gabs, the Parlors, the MeWes, the Locals, the Rumbles, they're not big enough. They can't afford that stuff. So it's going to sort of consolidate and entrench them in their higher positions of powers as they're pulling the ladder up from the lower guys beneath it. So you're going to see them, I think, respond and say, you're right, regulate us, because it serves their monopolies. We have True says, I thought this administration was going to strip our Second Amendment rights before coming for our First Amendment rights. Well, they're probably just going right down in order. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. We'll see where it goes. Thanks for chiming in on that, True. It is very concerning. We have another one from Zaloarg says, another case of Florida man. Yeah, the Florida man. You know, the Floridians. I happen to love Florida. Haven't been there in a long time. But yeah, Florida man. We have Sharon Quidney says, I thought that vote by text was a joke or satire on vote by mail. Since when is satire a crime? Well, today. It's a crime today. So you can't joke. You can't do anything. If there's any shred of disinformation, and you don't even have to prove that the disinformation did anything. Just the fact that you put it out into the world. Just because some people responded to it, liked it, sent a text message. Not that they were actually disenfranchised from voting, because they can't prove that. That's a crime, Sharon. Welcome to the new America. We got Sabo Abba says, Bush versus Gore 2000. No right to vote in a presidential election. Okay, so Sabo's, using some case law. The whole thing's ridiculous. The whole suit. They're calling it a deprivation of your right to vote by posting something on Twitter. Like, that's it. Thanks, Sabo. We got another one. Very, very nice one from Dr. EMB, who's always very, very generous with her super chats. Good to see you, Doc. Says, flashback 1 year ago, China was saddened by free speech being shut down and censored, with doctors threatened to be arrested if they spoke out about COVID. 1 year later, look at what is happening in the USA. Very, very surrealistic and sad. We need serious help. God? Question mark. I think some prayers would be good at this moment. I think, keeping in mind that we also have some things that we have to do, as people who are concerned about free speech and free association, free expression, the ability to communicate. We've also got to, I think, get our bearings straight a little bit on some of this stuff. This is what we're seeing here is a domino effect that is just getting worse and worse. I mean, okay, yeah, first they came for Parler. First they came for Trump. First they came for Alex Jones. Then they came for Trump. Then they came for Parler. Now they're coming for everybody else. Now they're charging people with crimes for stuff that happened 4 or 5 years ago because they were posting memes on the internet. Don't approve of the memes. Don't endorse the memes. Wouldn't share one of those memes. Probably didn't share one of those memes. I don't know. But my point here is that it's not good behavior, but it's not criminal behavior. Okay, people do a lot of repulsive things in this country. Doesn't mean they should be charged with a crime, investigated by 3 U.S. attorneys, and arrested on an arrest warrant and threatened with a 10-year sentence. It's insanity. And so, Dr. EMB, I think you're right. It started with some of the COVID stuff. YouTube was putting the contextual warnings on COVID. If you talked about any of the alternative medicine, you got just lampooned. Not allowed to do it because you're outside of the safety bubble that social media wants to envelop you in. Now, if you're spreading memes, that's also dangerous. So it started with health misinformation. Now it's going down to political misinformation. What's next? Do you think it's going to stop there? Everything is going to be tied to extremism, or racism. We're hearing a lot about this equity stuff. Okay, so if they want to pass, I'm hearing that climate change is racism now, and all of these they're lumping all of these issues into these very, very troubling buckets that I just don't like. I think a prayer to your higher power is probably a good call at this point in time, but we also got to recognize that my initial instinct on some of this stuff, just so in the interest of full transparency. When I feel like my bubble is getting shrunken, like I'm getting muzzled to a certain extent, if this was my free speech bubble, let's say, and now it's getting clamped in, if it's getting narrowly, tightened up, what do we have to do? We got to push back and push that bubble out. We got to get more active, defend our little zones of speech. We got to figure out ways to do that. And I think one of the ways is to get organized. It's to transfer over to different platforms. It's to stay communicated. It's to support each other. I offered, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he's on a podcast. He's starting a podcast. Let me come on. Let me go on your show. Let me help you. How can I help you create content? How can we all help each other, support each other, get out of the ecosystem where they don't want us? They don't want us on Facebook. They don't want us on Twitter. They don't want us, having conversations with each other. They don't want us protesting anymore. Okay, well, we can't just accept that. So we have to get organized, communicate clearly, support each other, and I think we're going to get through it. Remember, we're on the right side of history on this stuff. The free speech stuff is the right side of history. All of these people talking about extremism protections, hate speech, which is just a made-up word, it's a made-up concept, and talking about these limitations that just come up from these newly created problems that they're trying to cram down your throats. Remember, the Founding Fathers put it in the First Amendment for a reason. It's that important. They broke away from England as a result of not being able to speak appropriately. It's that important of an issue. There are a lot of hills that I'm not willing to die on, but the free speech one is foundational to everything else. So stick around, doctor. We're going to keep working on this for some period of time. We have another one from Liberty or Death. Says, posted a meme of the president and VP before the election. Caption, new music album from Creepy Joe and Camel Toe. Looks like I am going to jail. Well, you and me both, Liberty or Death. You know, I actually had a folder of memes, which is like illegal material now. It's like, you know, it's not good. Just like book burning the memes now. We're all just transacting in illegal material. I got these memes, bro. I got these memes. You want some of these memes? Transacting memes on the corners, in the shadows, in the dead of night, because we can't post them on Twitter anymore. Liberty or Death will exchange memes at one point in time. Another one. This Mackey case is so stupid. Can a defense attorney file a Rule 11 motion against a prosecutor, or is that only in civil law, something similar? So, you know, I'm not sure what Rule 11 you're referencing. You know, there are rules of civil procedure. There are rules of criminal procedure. In Arizona, Rule 11 is for a mental incompetency. So if you have a defendant who is mentally incompetent, you go through Rule 11, you go through Rule 11 court and all of that. So it depends on what context you're in. But yeah, I mean, you know, a mental competency rule against these prosecutors, against these U.S. attorneys, probably a pretty good idea. So if you're using Rule 11 in the Arizona context, yeah, it's a good idea. They all should be checked for their mental competency. Another one from Sharon Quidney says, hey, Rob, watch out. They'll be coming after you, probably all of us, sooner or later. Good thing you're a lawyer. Are you licensed in California? I am, Sharon. I actually am. I don't take any cases over there, but I was in a relationship when I just got out of law school, and she wanted to go take the California bar exam. So I went over to California, took the bar exam. I passed. She didn't. That was the end of that relationship. So it didn't work out for us. But it was a nice thing because now I'm licensed in California. Very difficult state to get licensed in. Was a good thing. I'm glad that I have that feather in my cap. But I just don't use it often, quite frankly. I'm kind of an Arizona-based guy. Family's here. I like sticking here. But at some point, I may branch into other states and open up an office over there. And well, I'll have to learn a lot more about California law. We have another one from Chris Wolney. Says, what 18 U.S. Code 241 case precedent is there from the 1960s? Couldn't a low bar also open government up to lawsuits for any misconduct involving two or more people? Yes, Chris, essentially, yes. I mean, we read that statute. It is so insane. It's such a low bar. It means anything. You know, if you look up your common in your local, if you're in your local state, the closest analogy that I can come to on criminal law here is a statute that's often called disorderly conduct. And if you read Arizona's version of it, it basically means nothing. I mean, it's like you can do anything. If it's disorderly and it's conduct, there you go. That's the whole statute. So I've had people, in our office who've been charged with it for like one of the most insane stories. Somebody was in an argument with his significant other, and they were talking back and forth, and it sounded controversial or confrontational or whatever. We all get in arguments. That's not illegal. You've ever been in a relationship, you've gotten in an argument. And what happened here is I think he like threw a bowl into the trash, and the bowl broke. He went, threw it in the trash, it broke. Neighbor heard the argument. Neighbor heard the breaking bowl, called the police. Police showed up. He got arrested. Disorderly conduct, domestic violence. He was disorderly, and he was doing something that involved conduct. That's the low bar that we have. That was a criminal charge. I think we got that case dismissed. It was so ridiculous. But the point is, he got charged. He got arrested that night, had to go into court, had to do all of this stuff. And so you're seeing the same type of thing happen under this U.S. code. So broad. Any oppression, intimidation for any right guaranteed under the Constitution. It's basically anything. It's like a disorderly conduct statute. They can charge it for anything. And they're using it. I think it's a massive stretch. Chris Wolney, I haven't looked up any case law on that statute in particular, but I think it's a good point. We have a couple law school students here, so I may turn them loose on that, and then maybe we can talk about it. I just want to sort of see where this case goes. It seems to me like it's a political prosecution entirely. It is a political prosecution. I don't even think you can make an argument against that. The DOJ was sitting on this case for 4 years. As soon as Donald Trump got out, boom, change in the leadership. We have a new, attorney general, and Monty Wilkinson, I think is his name, and boom, the policy changed. Okay, remember Obama's IRS was going after conservative groups and things. So as soon as you get a change in leadership, now they're going after memeologists from 2016. Sick. I posted a meme, quote, remember to mark your calendar for Tuesday, November 10 to get out and vote for Biden-Harris. Know any criminal defense lawyers in Illinois? Yeah, the whole thing's a joke. It's a joke. It's ridiculous. Thanks, Joe. Oh, my goodness, Joe. Joe, we're living in bizarro world. Joe Sosnowski. Yeah, I actually do know some very good criminal defense lawyers in Illinois. I'm thinking of one right now. Hell of a guy. I actually talked to him today. We'll have to form a meme defense bar for all of the memes out there. We can call it the National Association of Meme Defense. We got TikToker says, thank you for what you do. We need people like you. Thanks, TikToker. I appreciate that. I'm trying to do my part. I'm trying to be a little bit more vocal about some of these things because it's just so troubling. I honestly, 2 months ago, I would not have predicted any of this. If you said 2 months ago, they're going to start charging Trump supporters for posting memes on the internet. Like they're going to arrest them and charge them with an arrest warrant. I'd say, get the hell out of here. There's no way they can do that. We have all these free speech protections. Like there's no way. Here we are. We are literally right here. It's like my mind is blown. We have Amanda Chapman. If a meme can stop someone from voting, then they probably shouldn't be voting anyways. And I know that's a politically incorrect situation. Everybody wants everybody to vote. Enfranchisement. Everybody go vote. Everybody vote, 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 vote. I have friends, folks, who are going, wait a minute. What's happening with taxes? What's happening with the schools? Are the schools opening? What's going on here? And they go, I go, no. Are you listening to the news? No, they have no idea. They just didn't like the orange man. And so, there are repercussions. I do not like the idea that everybody just goes and votes. I don't like that idea, truthfully, if I can be candid about it. If you don't pay attention to politics, what the hell are you voting for? If you don't ever read the news, if you don't care about how our system works, if you can't name the 3 branches of government, if you don't know who the president is, who the Senate Majority Leader is, who's running the House, who's on the Supreme Court, if you don't know the basic functional operations of how our government works, I do not want you participating in it. You're welcome to. You're free to. Come on and do it. Learn something and go and express your opinion. But if you're just going to read the headlines on Facebook from some lunatic person in your life who's saying what an evil this, and this is, I don't particularly want you to vote. Sorry. I know it's not a politically correct opinion, but it's how I feel. We got Pinky number 2 says, it is B and China using cancel culture. They are going to find reasons to make us compliment. And note how B looks on speeches. He looks mad. Yeah. Are we talking about Biden on that one? Yeah. Biden's pretty interesting these days. We got Renee. Good to see you, Pinky. Thank you. We got another one from Renee Markov says, does this open the door to 2020 voter F? Does this open the door to 2020 voter F? So, no, I mean, I don't think that they're necessarily related. I think that if you're talking about the F word as it relates to 2020, I mean, you could make the same arguments. You could apply the same standard. If you had any 2 people who were conspiring to impact or oppress anybody on anything, I mean, you could go find people who were doing that all over the country and they were not spreading memes. People going door to door, collecting ballots and stuff. Massive double standards. Doesn't even make any sense at all. We got Kevin Schroeder says, getting arrested for satire and sarcasm and charged with a crime is ridiculous. It's now a crime to joke around. Is this a defense lawyer's dream? I would absolutely love to work on this case. I would love to work on this case or a similar case. If somebody in Arizona gets charged with this, please contact me because I would, I'd be very interested in consulting or just working on it because this is insanity. Another one from Joe Sosnowski says, when and how do we alter or abolish? Ma is GOAT, the greatest of all time. When and how do we alter or abolish? So I'm not sure what you're referencing there, Joe. I would say that the real course here is to just move off of these big platforms. Got to be extra careful about your speech. I mean, this is really what this comes down to. They want you to not be aggressive. If you're a Trump person, if you are not a Biden person, what is the effect of this case? Okay, whether this person goes to prison or not, whether this person just, this is a slap on the wrist. Okay, they prosecute the case. He says, I'm sorry, I was screwing around. And they say, all right, we're just going to give you probation and we're going to let you go. And so everybody just kind of glosses over this. Well, the damage is already done, folks. We've been talking about it here for like 2 hours now. People all throughout the internet are talking about it. And every single person who ever thought that they were a Trump supporter, or let's say an anti-government individual, doesn't even have to be a Trump supporter. You could be a libertarian now. John Brennan says that they're extremists. Any one of those categories that is in the extremist category is now going, should I post that or not? I'm not going to post that. It's chilling the speech. So what you may post may not ever be legal or anything close to illegal. I don't think what that guy posted was illegal. I think it was in poor taste, but that doesn't mean it's a crime. But now everybody's going, should I post that or not? I'm just not going to post it. It's not even worth it. And that's the goal. They accomplished their goal. People are going to be freaked out because they don't want the FBI showing up at their door. How is that for democracy? It's not good. Sharon Quidney says, so not okay to influence voters unless it's helping people fill out their ballots for Hillary or last year for Biden, which is totally okay. Yeah. Everything is about influencing voters. Everything. That's why people get on Twitter. It's to slam dunk on each other over politics. Cheryl Myers, didn't Bill Barr say there is some fraud in every election, but not enough to change the outcome? Sorry, Hillary, 4,900 votes don't matter in the end. There you go, Cheryl. That's a good point. Applying that same standard. Yeah, I mean, how did you alter that's what everything. Loud motorcycle went by. Could you hear that? There was this allegation, or there was this claim that all of Donald Trump's claims were without merit because it wouldn't have changed the course of the election. Here it's a little bit different because this is a criminal charge. But is it consequential? Do they even know that the 4,900 people sent a text message to that fraudulent number? Do they know that they would have voted and they were disincentivized from voting from this meme? I didn't see that in the probable cause statement. We have another one from Umar. Says, Rob, you're the man. Thanks for breaking down the legal docs and elaborate on the societal impacts their arguments carry. Love your videos. Keep it up. Thanks, Umar. Very nice compliment. I appreciate it. We will continue on. We are not slowing down. In fact, we're talking about how we can amplify things up pretty considerably. And so stay tuned for some of that. Appreciate your support, though. Teresa Child says, if Mackey can be blamed for voter suppression, how soon will it be before the mainstream media declares that he is responsible for the insurrection at the Capitol? Everything it's probably already happening, right? I think it is already happening. And I mean this genuinely. They're expanding the scope to include lies and disinformation. So it started out as Donald Trump said some bad things on January 6th, which led to the insurrection. Now that bubble it's not sufficient anymore. The rest of America, the evidence, in fact, is showing this was pre-planned. We just saw that from the now acting chief, Capitol Hill Police chief, Yogananda, whatever her name is. She just said that. They knew on January 4th that this was all being planned. So how could Donald Trump incite it if it was pre-planned? How could his language have caused them to storm the Capitol building when he was not even finished speaking yet and they were already breaching the outer perimeter? It's not possible. So he didn't actually incite it. So they know that now and they go, oh, that's kind of a crap argument. So we have to expand the scope of all this to include his months of lies. And we saw Brian Stelter yesterday saying that includes people like Ben Shapiro. Apparently Ben Shapiro hosting a radio show is fueling lies that is contributing to an insurrection. So maybe Ben Shapiro then can be also swept up by the FBI for his statements. Maybe they can come for me. It would be fun. We would have an entire defense team here just up in arms about it. I don't want to get arrested. I don't want to provoke them. I don't want this stuff to happen. I don't want it to happen to me. I don't want it to happen to you. I don't want it to happen to this guy. I don't want it to happen to Democrats. I don't want to see liberals swept up for posting memes. Not even at all. Not even close. I don't want the Socialist Party to be canceled and investigated and labeled extremists. I disagree vehemently with socialism, strongly against communism. but they're free to talk about it. They're free to organize. They're free to post stupid memes if they want to and joke around. It's not a crime. It's ridiculous. Sniper Jared says, can we prosecute every senator for violating 18 U.S. Code Section 241? Since apparently memes can be prosecuted, surely conspiring with the media can be as well. Yeah, so all these conspiracies, Ted Cruz posts memes. They all post memes. Because memes are fun and quite hilarious, actually. It's one of the best things about social media is the ridiculous memes. But now you have, our Department of Justice, our U.S. attorneys are prosecuting memes. Code red, folks. Chris Wolney says, can we make a public interest defense on idiots duped by memes? It highlights the need for civics education reform. It's another dangerous crisis. I know. Memes are a catastrophic problem in this country now. Thanks for that, Chris. Chris Wiseman says, hey, by this logic, would it be correct understanding that anyone who, quote, liked or shared or retweeted any of these memes would be an unindicted co-conspirator? Maoist levels of concern. China bans Winnie the Pooh on social media after comparisons with President Xi Jinping. Yeah. Well, Chris Wiseman, you have just incriminated yourself by posting this meme, and I am incriminating myself by playing this meme. So we've got a couple unindicted co-conspirators. All right, whatever. We have Claire DeLuna says, thanks, Robin, Faith, and the mods. Watching it on 2x speed always throws me off when it goes back to 1x when I hit the live stream. Like and subscribe. Thanks, Claire. Yeah, my stepdad also watches it on 2x speed. I thought I speak, relatively quickly, but gotta get it up, gotta get it in there. Thanks, Claire, and thanks for the reminder to like and subscribe. Be a nice thing. We have ODV. It's giving me a little fist pump, maybe with a mic drop. Boom. Thank you, ODV. Appreciate it. We have another one from MJ. So we can file charges against all media that has threatened to deprogram the MAGA folk because that was intimidating and threatening. Exactly right. That's exactly the point. Okay, anybody who's on CNN who's saying these are extremists, these are dangerous individuals, that is an impingement. That is infringing on your ability to express yourself in America, right? If they're saying you're an extremist and they're canceling you off these platforms, they are infringing on literally your ability to speak. And they're conspiring to do that. And just like voting, your ability to speak is enshrined in the U.S. Constitution, just like a voting right is. So if they are now conspiring to delete your ability to speak, they are absolutely intimidating and threatening you, and they're absolutely infringing on a constitutional right. So the same law, by the same standard, they can all be indicted and charged according to the FBI. Will they? No, of course not, because it's not about that. This is about silencing and chilling the speech for anybody who is not them. And it's not just the Trump people. It's anybody who is not them. It's dangerous stuff. Pinky number 2 says, the photo of bee sniffing H was a real photo of bee sniffing Defense Minister Ashton Carter's wife ear on a TV presentation. Yeah, there's some weird images of Biden. A lot of weird images of the hugging and the kissing and the sniffing and the kids and all sorts of weird stuff. Pinky, you crack me up. The bee sniffing. Yeah, the bee sniffing. Yeah, Chris Wolney says, where's Trump's conspiracy lawsuits for Russiagate? Yeah, it's another good point there, Chris. You can sue for any. The standard is so low. All right, we got another one. Amanda Chapman says, please watch the entire Floyd body cam video, 20 minutes. Yeah, Amanda, I've watched it several times. We covered it on this show back in, was it May? Covered all of them back in May. We covered him. We covered Rayshard Brooks. We covered Ahmaud Arbery. We covered Jacob Blake. We covered all of them. Not all of them. I'm sure we missed. I'm sure there's many, many more that we couldn't have covered. But we did cover a lot of them. We spent a lot of time on George Floyd. Been pretty aggressive about that one. I do hope that those cops get the justice that is deserved here. You can have a differing opinion on what that is. I think you know where mine stands. We have another one from Umar. Rob, do you have any recommendations on preparation material for folks wanting to become self-sufficient and navigate through the courts in pro se? That is such a broad question. Umar, it's a good question. So what I would recommend, courts are very unique across this country. They're even unique from city to city. They've got different forms, different procedures, different, policies. Prosecutors' offices do things differently. And so if you're somebody who is looking to, file a lawsuit or form a corporation or file bankruptcy or, whatever it is, you're going to want to you want to start with the jurisdiction that you're in. And so many people will think that there's sort of a one size fits all solution. Kind of doesn't work like that. I'm a criminal lawyer. I know the Constitution inside and out, and I'm licensed in Arizona, and I'm also licensed in California. How a DUI is processed in Arizona is radically different than how it's processed in California. A lot of the same concepts. You still have Fourth Amendment problems and the ability to do certain things here or there, kind of the same general framework, but in terms of practicalities, entirely different. Penalties are different. Mandatory jail here in Arizona, you kind of get a slap on the wrist if you're within a certain range in California. So two totally different systems within the same country. So my point here is if you're looking for a global answer, there isn't one. You're going to want to find your local court, see how they do things specifically. A lot of courts have a lot of forms now. A lot of stuff can be done online. And so that's where I would start. If you're in a situation where you're trying to navigate the court pro se or on your own without a lawyer, then I would look to that court, study that, maybe go into a hearing or two in front of the judge. Many hearings you can go in and see what the judge does. You can see how they act. You can go and say, hey, I'm representing myself. I need to go to an arraignment. I don't know what to do at an arraignment. Do you have another day, Miss Court Clerk, where you're doing arraignments? I'd like to come in and sit there and watch. You should be free to do that. So you can go see what the judge says, how it works, and pick up a little bit of the mechanics of the courtroom by just going and sitting in there and observing. In fact, I did that when I was a law school student. I just went and watched a bunch of trials just so I could learn. MJ, how or was it Pelosi telling them to stand down, hoping for what exactly happened? She is head of the House after all. Yeah, and that was kind of where I was going with that. Whether or not she, as the Speaker of the House, has any authority or ability to lean on the Sergeant of Arms who were responsible for the security on Capitol Hill. What were those conversations? What were those emails, the text messages, the phone calls? What the hell happened on that particular day? Because it didn't make any sense. Another one from Watching You Daily says, can we as a citizen file injunctions to enjoin Congress from to prevent court packing? No, I don't think so, Watching You Daily. This is going to fall into that same category of political issues. So remember, we've talked a lot about standing and a lot about mootness and ripeness and latches and all of those things. There is another threshold issue that the courts just refuse to hear cases about. And one of them they're called political questions. And so if you wanted to sue the government for not doing something the way that you want it to go, and there is a political mechanism by which you can still effectuate that same change. So here, if you're saying, we don't want the Democrats or Congress to pack the court. You want to go file a lawsuit. The court's going to say, okay, well, we're not going to hear this lawsuit because there's a mechanism already in play that would help you accomplish that goal. It's called voting. Okay. At the next election, just go vote or write your senators or write your congresspeople or file a lawsuit against them individually. And you can sue anybody you want in this country, but the courts aren't really going to, entertain that. They're just going to call it a political question. And they're going to kick it right out of court, just like they did with all of Trump's lawsuits. Timothy Stevenson. Have the Arizona Dominion voting machines been audited yet? Where can we find out? I don't think so, Timothy. What I would do is probably just follow Kelly Ward and the Arizona GOP on Twitter. They keep things pretty updated. The last I heard that it was sort of approved. We talked about this the memo from Karen Fan, I think, our Senate Majority Leader here in Arizona, and the last I heard it was just authorized, but not actually underway yet. So I would follow people on Twitter, the local people, or set up a Google alert to, Arizona Dominion voting or Arizona vote audit or something like that. That would be the best way. We have Sharon Quidney. How do you define hate speech? Seems to me you can make it whatever you want it to be. Yeah, that's kind of the problem with it, is hate speech it's a very loose term. Kind of define it to whatever you want it to be. Okay. I don't particularly think anything's hate speech. Even if somebody came up to me and said, Robert, I hate your race. I hate your religion. I think you're the worst person in the world. I hate all lawyers. Lawyers are scum, by the way. I'd say, okay, well, thanks for sharing your opinion. It hurts my feelings a little bit, but do you think I should call the cops now, or what do you want me to do about that? Okay, the world is a scary place. People say bad things. People say things that are derogatory and cruel and awful. Should we be criminalizing people for that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But you're going to see major attempts to do so. It's already going that direction in Canada, and it's probably going on here. We have Wolfgang Deo says, have you heard about the GameStop stock thing? A hedge fund lost $4 billion on their short sell. And like all kinds of people, we like the stock. Yes, I did hear about it. I have not paid much attention to it. I've been seeing this thing just take off, and it's kind of crazy. I think it's kind of a very interesting thing. All right, we have another. Good to see you, Wolfgang. Another one from the Wandering Mariner says, used to say woosah, now not in my hula hoop. Not in my hula hoop. Great show. Thanks to Wandering Mariner. Yeah, it's a good one. I use it all the time. I use it around the firm here. If somebody comes in and they're complaining about something, I say, hey, is that in your hula hoop? And they go, oh, no, it's not. And then they'll they won't keep complaining about it. I use it all the time myself. If I'm bent out of shape about something, I'll just say, is that really in my hula hoop? And I'll just take it out. I'll say, no, this doesn't belong in here. Let's put you back outside of that hula hoop. And life can calm down a little bit when you do that. We have chairman of the board said, just became an official follower on Locals. Come on in, folks. The water's fine. Also posted an offensive but funny meme, but you have to join to see it. Thank you, chairman of the board. Chairman's going to be the secretary of the impeachment party. And we got Turd Ferguson, who is going to be the deputy chairman. I'm going to be, of course, the chairman because it's my party and I can cry if I want to. So it's one of those things where chairman is now telling you to go over to Locals. It's a great place. A lot of cool people over there. We're trying to grow it. It's brand new. We are trying to get over 1,000 members because once that happens, we get it unlocks certain features. So when we first joined, I think we couldn't add any moderators. I couldn't add anybody to the forum because we were too small. Now we can do that. And then we're just slowly tearing our way up. Most of the content is free. If you want to participate, you got to pay $5 a month. It's like a cup of coffee. You get a bunch of free stuff over there. I will tell you about it at the end of the program. Thank you for that, chairman of the board. Charles Reed says, okay, so I listened to this guy and tried to impeach my ex. Now I'm having problems with law issues. Do you know a good defense attorney here in California? So I listened to this guy and tried to impeach my ex. So he's saying that he took my impeachment party template and impeached his ex. Now I'm having problems with law issues. So what I would do there, Charles Reed, is I would just move forward with the impeachment, whether it makes any sense or not. So just follow the template that Congress is doing. Just double down on the impeachment. Impeach, just impeach even harder. Even though it's not going to go anywhere, just follow Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, follow their lead and impeach away. Good luck to you, though. We have another one from Sharon Quidney. Says, 100% right, Rob. We are on the right side of history with free speech. We have to band together, fight back. Oops, I hope I don't get arrested for that. Yes, Sharon, I think we are right. Free speech is a foundational issue. Everybody's trying to modify it now to conform to their political ends. And they're still saying, no, we're free speech. We love free speech, but not that speech, and not that speech, and not that speech, and not disinformation, not misinformation, not extremism, not anti-government rhetoric, because all of that leads to something else. But all of that has already been tried in this world before, and it doesn't work. And so I think that we're going to continue to work hard to preserve that liberty that we all enjoy so much. Paul Roberts says, great show, Rob. May I recommend a great book for you? 1984, George Orwell. I've also seen Texas Indie gathering momentum from a Brexit-loving Brit. Hey, thanks, Paul. Good to have you here, my friend, from over in Great Britain. And 1984, George Orwell. I remember reading that. I think I read that in 5th grade, 6th grade. I think you're right. It's probably due up for a refresh, because it certainly feels that way. Tom Sellers says, would a writ of mandamus be good to protect substantive rights being deprived under FECA? The procedures OWCP uses conflict with the CFR and the U.S. Code. I need help, is what he says. So there's a lot of acronyms here. We've got the Code of Federal Regulations. We got the U.S. Code. The Office of the, don't know what OWCP is or what you're referring to under FECA, would have written mandamus. So there's a book of questions crammed in there into that one super chat there, Tom. Not sure that I can help you on that one right out of the gate, but a writ of mandamus is a court ordering something be done, right? They're mandating that something gets done. And I'm not sure specifically what you're talking about under all of those codes. So protecting substantive rights that are deprived under FECA and the procedures OWCP uses that conflict with CFR and the U.S. Code. I need help. It's a complicated question there, Tom. Sorry, I couldn't help unpack that a little bit more. Chris Wolney said, set your law students loose on 18 U.S. Code 242 cases too. Yeah, all right. I'll send an email. I'll have them pull some case law, and then we can talk about it. We have Joe Sosnowski says that governments are instituted among men to secure these rights, and whenever government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. It's a powerful quote. Let's read that one more time. The governments are instituted among men to secure these rights, and whenever government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. Yep. That's accurate. We have Timo Ittner says, I apologize, but I just tuned in. Can you quickly review what you're talking about, the statute or the law? Yeah, so Timo, we covered a lot today. We covered the new recent arrest of Douglass Mackey, who was Ricky Vaughn on Twitter. Covered that at length. Talked about Ghislaine Maxwell. We talked about George Floyd. Then we talked about some Biden stuff. Then we talked about a woman being stabbed 20 times who allegedly did it to herself, according to the government there. Then we also have the Canadians who are talking about hate speech. So I'm not sure where you tuned in, but covered a lot today. Woo, we did cover a lot. A-Dub says, hello, Rob and crew. AZ Native here. I've been enjoying the show. What's one of your favorite bands? Ooh, good question on that. So what I've been doing lately is listening to a lot of, I would say, like EDM music and electronic and music that helps me focus a little bit. I'm not a big fan of vocals. I know this is kind of a weird thing. I don't really like vocals in music, so I don't listen to a lot of bands. I grew up listening to Social Distortion, Tom Petty. I had a rap phase at one point in time, but if I had to pick a favorite band, one that's probably been most impactful in my life, I would probably say Social Distortion. I grew up listening to those guys. A lot of Offspring too, the early days of Offspring. 5th grade, I'd ride my bike listening to Offspring. Ixnay on the Ombre for a long time. Sublime was a big fan of them, but more lately, I don't listen to a lot of vocal music. I like some house, some trance. I like if you plug this into YouTube, I like complextro, very sort of aggressive, fast-paced digital music, and it doesn't have lyrics most of it. So I just put it on when I'm thinking or writing or reading. I've got speakers all over the place, and it helps me focus. Very good question. Have not gotten that one yet. Aaron Seavey says, Rob, if you were planning a defense, would you different standards as evidence, or would that be hearsay and not allowed in court? Love the show. Keep it up. So if I was planning a defense, yeah, so, what you're talking about, I think, Aaron, is if you're in court, can I make those same arguments? Can I say, hey, judge, this is a ridiculous double standard? Can I, show where this case has been used in other situations? And kind of yes and kind of no. You can use it in certain contexts. You can use it in negotiation. You can use it in a settlement conference where you're trying to convince a judge, hey, this was wrongfully charged. You could have a probable cause hearing where they bring all of this evidence in. Basically, that document that was drafted by Megan Reese, the FBI agent, she was saying that this is the evidence I have, and this meets the statute. And so the defense could come back and say, no, it doesn't. Here's why. We have this case, this case, this case. This one was charged for terrorism. This one was charged for theft. This one was charged for whatever. This doesn't match those at all. That's not the purpose of this statute, and it doesn't meet the probable cause standard based on the evidence that's being alleged. It just doesn't meet the code. And so you could have those arguments all day, but you could also talk about them sort of outside of court. So you could go to a prosecutor, you go to the prosecutor's boss and say, look, this is just being wrongfully charged. We're asking you to voluntarily dismiss this based on the fact that it's prosecutorial misconduct. You're prosecuting a crime that you don't have the authority to prosecute. That is a violation of your ethical duty. And if you don't see it that way, I'm happy to file a bar complaint. I'm happy to take this to an ethics committee or a judicial committee if it's a judge you're talking to. So if they disagree with you, you can appeal it up. There's a lot of options on that. So that's why I was saying would kind of have a lot of fun with that case. We have chairman of the board. Do you think this over the top going after people, even if they mention the F word, is a bit of methinks she doth protest too much? It feels that way. I think so, Chairman. It's like, I've said this before. To me, honestly, I know this is a charged word, but it feels very cowardly. If you have a better argument, then why don't you talk about it? Okay. The argument that I have seen from many people, Rand Paul was on with George Stephanopoulos, and George just kept talking the same point that you're a liar. So you're lying, and this is dishonest, and that there's no widespread proof of this and no widespread proof of that. And Rand Paul's responding to him, and they're not even talking about it. It's sort of an ad hominem attack. It's a constant. He's basically referring to an absence of evidence as proof that there is no fraud. He's saying, well, it hasn't been proven yet. Nobody's shown anything about it. Therefore, that's evidence. And it's not. It's an absence of evidence. And you're sort of taking that one step further and then claiming that that is evidence of something. In other words, evidence of nothing is evidence of something. And that's just not the way the world works, right? Rand's saying, well, more investigations, more details. Let's do an audit. Let's do all this other stuff. And if you had a good argument, that would be an appropriate time to respond to the argument rather than just saying, absence of evidence essentially is what the logic that they're using. And when they don't like your answer, they just throw you off of the platform, which is a very cowardly thing to do in my mind. John Crute says, the PSYOP is coming from Biden, the last administration, the DOJ. MLK said it best. The only thing you have to fear is fear itself. Don't be silenced. It's a good one there, John. MLK was onto something. I think a lot of his principles are absolutely applicable today. We just got to seize on those things. Tiffany Kreutz, I love how it's on way. A lot of Biden voters posted for Trump voters to vote in person the day after voting. Okay, so there you go, right? So, I don't follow a lot of these meme people these days, but I would absolutely guess that it's going both ways. Only one side is being prosecuted thus far. If they come out and prosecute somebody on the other end, I will still be outraged over it. It's a wrong type of prosecution in my mind. We have Shades. Memes, therapy relief to an increased insane world. Yeah, memes are great. They're fun. I love memes. Sharon Quidney says, right on, Rob. I'm a musician pro and do EDM, do a lot of trance. Ooh, Sharon. Well, you're over on Locals. Please share your stuff. I would love to check it out. And I'm serious about that. I would love that. We have another meme coming in from, I think this is a meme. Yeah, this is a meme. We got some more memes coming in. Chris Wiseman over at Locals. This is why you got to be on Locals, folks. He says here, freedom of speech. The image no longer exists. Sad face. There you go. Here's another one. Condemn freedom of speech that hurts other people's feelings. Hashtag me too from Adolf. So we've got, looks like Jack Dorsey. We've got Mao. We've got Stalin. Looks like that is Marx. We probably got Lenin here, and I think that might be Trotsky. So we've got just all of the free speech cancellation people all on one chart. Condemn freedom of speech that hurts other people's feelings. That's the whole damn point of free speech, my friends. And so that is it. That was our last meme. Those were our last super chats of the program. So I want to thank everybody for being here. Let's wrap up the program by thanking our newly added local supporters, of course. We have a couple of people who joined up last night. We got Real with Robo in the house. We got Nano Bingo. We've got Dr. Guns. We've got THNQER. We have TCS Med Free who joined. We've got Al Huber. We've got Sarah Smothers in the house. And we've also got S. Crutcher, or maybe Scrutcher, who's joined up over on Locals. And if you want to check out Locals, please go to this website. It's watchingthewatchers.locals.com. It's free to join. If you want to participate, if you want to comment on stuff, then you have to You have to sign up. It's $5 a month. Very inexpensive, like a cup of coffee. And here is all of the stuff that you'll get. So you can just get access to this stuff. Whether you sign up or not, it's free. This is all available. The links are all available for free. You can get a copy of the slides, of course. The PowerPoint show is over there. The impeachment templates are over there. So you can just go in, download this Word document, impeach whoever the hell you want. If you're going to impeach your ex, just be cautious that things might get a little bit hot and heavy, as we saw from our commenter previously today. You can download a copy of my existence system. So this is my personal productivity sheet. Download that. It's a one-sheet PowerPoint slide. You can customize it, make it your own, and then utilize it in your life. Of course, get a copy of my book, Beginning to Winning. It's a free PDF down over there, or you can buy a copy of it on Amazon. Of course, links to all of the stuff that we produce here goes over there. I post links throughout the day, and the biggest reason, the most important reason to get over there is there are great people, really, really good people who are hanging out and having good, helpful, useful conversations about what's going on in this country, and we want to make sure that you go over and join us and be a part of that. Other than that, my friends, I just want to remind you that I'm a criminal defense attorney, and that's my day job. We've got a whole firm of people here who are excellent at what we do. We're very, very passionate about helping good people who've been charged with crimes just get through the justice system, get their lives back on track. And our mission is to provide safety, clarity, and hope for them, their cases, and their lives. We offer free case evaluations. We have the phones are being answered 24 hours a day. So if anybody needs any help with an active criminal case, clearing up an old criminal record, dealing with a mugshot on the internet, quashing an old warrant, restoring rights, trying to get your civil rights back so you can vote, own a firearm, be an American again, we can help with all of that. We handle cases all over Arizona. We would be very honored and humbled if you trusted us enough to send a referral our way. So thank you for that. Thanks for indulging me on plugging some of the things that we do. I hope to see you over on Locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Everybody, thank you so much for being a part of the show, and have a great, wonderful evening, a very nice, restful sleep. I will see you right here tomorrow, same time, same place. 5 p.m. Arizona time Mountain. It's going to be 4 p.m. California on the West Coast, 6 p.m. in Texas Central Time, and then 7 p.m. on the East Coast for those of you out there in Florida with Florida Man. See you all back here at that time tomorrow. Have a great evening, everybody. Thanks again. Bye-bye.